head cold, summer head cold, you know. I've got nothing better to do. All right, we're, Bartlett, nope, doesn't look like Bartlett. Anyway, so we have a 7:30. Why don't we start by doing the Pledge of Allegiance, as we always do? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. We'll start it. We have 6:30 board business. We'll take care of that while we wait for Bartlett. Let's board member update. Anything? You got anything?
No.
Anna?
I'm glad that I was appointed to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Oh, finally? Oh, good. I can get off now? Oh, good. It's a long time coming, but thank you. That's good. You deserve that. Okay, so we're good with that. We have nothing.
So along that lines, I'll keep posting Affordable Housing Trust meetings as planning board meetings.
I know, I saw that. I was confused. Because it said planning board and then the Affordable Housing Trust stuff popped up.
So that's why. Thanks, Maren.
Yep.
Hey, how much-
Thank you to Lucia.
How much money do we have in the Affordable Housing Trust, just for, and it comes to something we'll talk about later, but just a rough idea. We have 500 and something, right?
We have 400, close to 500.
Okay.
And then another pot that should be routed first through CPC. and
Okay.
Then come to Affordable Housing Trust. And
Okay.
with that, it would be up to about 800.
Okay, just in case we just, something we might want to buy later on. Anyway, minutes, anybody have any minute? Did we, everyone get a
So
chance?
we actually had 4 sets of minutes posted, May 5th, May 31st, June 2nd, and June 12th.
I think it's May 12th. May 5,
It's May 12th.
Well, one of them, or,
Yeah.
12th.
Yeah.
One of them was wrong, okay.
Has anyone had a chance to look at them? Does anyone have any concerns about them? Good?
No, they were all good.
I didn't have any concerns.
I didn't either. They're always perfect.
So I move to accept the meeting minutes of May 5, May 12, June 2nd, and June 14.
June 21st.
And
Second?
actually, it is the
14th,
14th,
okay.
yes. See,
Second?
different things, different places.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Billing and payroll procedure, land use department, revenue bills.
We do have a couple of peer review bills. So my question to the board, after the last meeting, you requested to see all the bills, and I'm questioning if you mean, if you wish to include the peer review bills or just the planning board budget bills. I'm hoping not to make Green wait
Yeah,
several
that,
more weeks to get paid,
the
but
problem,
that's.
the problem with us having to do it at a planning board meeting is it takes up to a month for them to get their bills. Am I the only one signing this?
You've asked the board, the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
board to sign it
You wanna
at
sign
the
it?
last meeting.
Do we care about, or I've got no problem, if you're worried about me signing everything, I don't have a problem if we refer it to Bartlett and have him sign it. Is that all right with you?
That's
Either
up-
one?
it-
Yeah.
So up to the board to.
It,
So if you
unfortunately,
recall, the last time that we talked about this, I had mentioned that in years past, that we had, when I first got on the board, that's what we used to do. So I just presumed that that would be the proper situation again. What do other boards do? Does anybody else have bills like we do?
There's a range. Probably the most efficient would be to authorize staff to do it. If you're not ready to do that, then you authorize one of the planning board members to do that. I'm going to take on payroll this year. My salary is under the land use department budget, so that'll go through Ed's office.
So we don't even do,
So
we're not gonna do that anymore, right?
Right, so those don't have to come here for signature, and they don't have to go through
I don't have to
DocuSign for Mark's,
DocuSign anymore?
for Mark's signature on those. Because those are, it's approved annually at town meeting with the,
As far as the green bills go, it's not really our money. It's money that was set aside by the developers for the work that Green's doing.
Right.
Green is okay with sending the bill in. I don't think we really have I don't think they should wait 30 days. That's my only issue about the whole thing. Sometimes it's 30 days, you know?
My only comment would be, I think it's good for us to know what they're charging or what's being expended. And that doesn't have to be related to approval. It's just, there should be some,
Well, isn't it available on, can't we look at it?
yeah, there is a process to be able to look at the money that was spent each week by the town, and I'm trying to think of a good way to, I could share the cost estimates with you when.
or just,
Peer review
even
estimate.
after they've been approved or paid, just, you know, at every meeting, just say, these are the bills, the peer review bills that were, I don't know. I just think that it's like we're always going peer review, and
Yeah.
and it is a cost to the applicants, and it's just good to know.
Right, I know the finance department is in the process of reviewing new software and updated software to allow anybody who's interested in a particular bill or cost center to be able to really dig into that and see it. So that would be a process that finance department does, and it wouldn't put additional burden on planning staff. So transparency has been a question that's been raised, and they're looking at how to best handle it townwide.
See, in the old days, actually, we didn't have a lot of peer review. We did it all. We had, highway department did a lot of the roadwork stuff until they got so busy they couldn't do it. Water department would go out and do all of their stuff. So we've pretty much implemented a program where the town doesn't really look at anything. We have peer review, take care of all of it, so. Yeah, the only thing I think of, it's unfair if, especially, and it has been happening lately, but in the old days, if we had missed a meeting or if there wasn't enough people, we had a couple of years where we didn't meet every month. We had big gaps, and that's when it became an issue. It's not really an issue now. We meet every month.
Bartlett, you were going to say something?
Yeah, would it be possible for you to add, just as a footnote to the meeting minutes, that thus and such was approved and paid?
Well, that'd be another little bit of coordination between myself and Lucia doing the minutes on what was done. It's all things that we could do. I'm just trying to get away from adding things.
Considering we've got so much going on,
Well, it's, you know, I hear you, but, you know, we can always revisit it.
okay.
Okay,
Yes,
happy to.
I spent 5 minutes. I did the best I could.
Yep,
Then we'll move on, okay? We'll leave it as it is, just,
Yep.
you know, now that I don't have to do payroll anymore, so. This the first week I I don't even pay attention. I think this is the first week I haven't, right?
Well, yeah, you would have been next week, but
Next
it'll
week.
go through.
Go ahead.
It's our department.
Oh, okay.
She said it's part.
Oh, okay. So I don't
I did,
DocuSign anymore. We're good. Land use, building department, we just basically talked about that, so there, never mind. Littleton Station Area Committee, we have a meeting with them next month where the Longs have hired a consultant to come in and talk to us about, is that next month?
Let's see, that's part of the discussion. So some representatives for the 245 Foster Street for the Longs have submitted a suggested zoning bylaw amendment for a transit-oriented development zoning bylaw for the one parcel. My personal concern with that is we one of the first questions we'll get from voters is, does this meet the guidance that DHCD will be putting out in the fall? There's no way to answer that at this point. And not only does it meet it, is it more than or less than what the state is asking us to do, what the legislation and DHC would be asking us to do.
Bucky, was that his name? Bucky, that was his name, I think it was. He does know that we're not gonna do anything until we get some guidance from the state, since we're the poster child for the state, so. They can come in, they can present,
Right, they're
and we
ready.
should be going along that way, just,
Right, they're ready to present, to have a discussion with the planning board at the August meeting.
okay. So they've hired a consultant to do all of this.
So I guess my question is, do we know when DHCD will have guidelines? And are those for the state or are those just for us?
The guidelines will be for the entire, will be for the legislation for the entire state.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Do you know what's holding it up? Like,
I'm,
because I think we were supposed to have those like a year ago, weren't we?
well, no, remember the draft guidelines came out in December.
Oh, that was a
and they've
draft
been-
guidelines,
Right, and
okay.
they've been saying that final guidance will be late summer, early fall.
Okay,
And given the timelines that DHCD has put in place for communities to comply, as long as Littleton has zoning in place by December 2024, we will be in compliance, so.
okay.
All right, well,
Now seems to be jumping the gun.
Myron and I met with them, and we told them at least, let's have them start to come before us. So that's why August.
Yep. And then the Littleton Station Area Committee, there's been suggestions from from select board members asking to be part of the committee or part of the discussion.
Okay.
And that committee had become,
Well, we kind of disbanded it. I mean, that was, now it's, the planning board has actually kind of picked up the ball with it. The station committee stopped about a year ago, right, when,
right, I went back and reviewed the record because I couldn't really remember. And leading up to last June's town meeting, there
Right.
were several meetings
Right.
where brought in the police department, fire department, highway department, I think, to answer some of the questions that had come up about it. But I don't see any meetings.
no, so what, as we get going, as we bring their consultant in and get more input from the state, we'll probably finish what we started a year ago with bringing everybody else back in too.
So, one final question around the Littleton Station Area Committee. There was a June 8th Housing Institute presentation by DHCD. Did that shed any more light as to what it is that they're looking for or anything like that?
No. That was a tool that the state is developing to help both communities look at look at existing zoning, see if they comply, look at proposed zoning, see if that will meet the guidelines. And that's part of the tool that the state will use to evaluate the communities, to bring them in line with the guidance.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So it's,
Okay.
So it's a wait and see
Yeah.
situation. Okay,
right, but it's been fun to have a peek behind part of the curtain to see all the work that's going in behind the scenes.
That's your concept of fun.
Sorry.
she's our town planner, of course it's fun.
Yes, it is. Especially the depth of the GIS work that they have, things that they've accomplished and what they're looking forward to doing.
You good?
Yeah.
Anyone else? Violet, you're good? You, Jeff? Mm-hmm. All right, so then we have correspondence for the controlling marijuana smell. I believe we're probably talking about Mr. Sanders and his field, his expertise in the need for charcoal filtering moving forward on any grow facility in Littleton with growing marijuana. That at the very least, we should be looking at charcoal filters for that. Why don't we've gotten your letter, pass it on to the Board of Health, because they're pretty much the ruling body about smells and odors, right? We could if we have another one come before us, we could include it in there as part of the procedure to mitigate the potential smells there. But for right now, the most we could do is pass it off to the Board of Health. Especially now that, and we'll find out this later, the grow facility that was proposed for, what do we call it? Area, I call it Area B, whatever, the commercials offer.
537 Great Road?
530, no, not that Great Road, the one, David Gianetti's.
Yeah,
537 Great Road has withdrawn without prejudice. They didn't want to, they're not going to grow anymore there. So they're just going to work on manufacturing of it, so at least we don't have to worry about the smell on that one. But yeah, I think it would be good to have something in there to address the potential moving forward of best technology to deal with the issue. So we can send that letter off to Board of Health, at least have them look at it, because if there's a complaint about other facilities in Littleton or potential other sites that might be coming down. But thank you for your letter, Mr. Sanders.
I just wanted to comment on that I would agree if there is anything that can be done over at Sanctuary when that continues to be a problem. I know in the meeting notes, I saw that Maren was to check on an update for that area. Were you able to find anything as to whether or not any more mitigation has occurred?
I haven't been able to circle back with Jim on that. We had another issue come up that we were working on.
Okay. Okay. So that would be my only comment, is that if Mr. Sanders' idea could be something that could be explored by Sanctuary when and if they continue to have issues, that might be another avenue to
Well, that's why I
explore.
think we should send it to the Board of Health, because
Yeah.
they're the ones that are dealing with the complaints there.
Yeah.
So we can do that. Bicycle and pedestrian master plan.
Okay, bicycle and pedestrian master plan. We have a signed contract the town has a signed contract with MAPC. It's about $40,000 worth of work. Littleton is putting in $20,000. Part of the mitigation funds from the Northbridge Amazon site will be used toward that. MAPC is doubling that with their funds. And we'll have an official kickoff meeting at the August 15th Planning Board meeting.
Nice.
So we're getting prepared for that. BPAC is excited and ready to go.
Good. Any concerns or questions about that? Well, you brought up an interesting aside that I should have probably made aware of. We're having a ribbon cutting, whatever you want to call it, photo op with Amazon, the water department, Northbridge, about the donation of land by Amazon and Northbridge for the well site off of Taylor Street. Hopefully we'll get some press there. Mr. Sanders is going to try to get governor there. I don't know how successful it'll be, but we'll see. And it's nice. We're going to finally recognize the 58-acre gift that has turned into as far as we know, a PFAS-free well site in the town of Littleton. So there's going to be a 1 o'clock
Wednesday, July 27th.
for anyone who wants to go to it. So it'd be nice if some of us could go. I think at least, well, some of us will go. Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, it's nice to finally acknowledge that gift, and that Amazon and Northbridge get some well-deserved publicity and accolades for something that was over and above what they needed to do. So anyway, so that'll be that. Anything else? I'm 5 minutes late, but I know I'm going to catch up. Board have anything else they want to talk about? Anything else? We good?
Good.
You're good, Maren? Everybody's
Thank you.
good? We're all good? Great. Okay, so we have a 6:45 continued public hearing, major commercial industrial use special permit, Aquifer Water Resource District special permit, site plan review, 1 Monarch Drive, new warehouse industrial building.
Good evening, Board. I just want to confirm that is Delisa participating via the Mullen rule?
She will be.
She will be.
She will have to be, yeah, in order to vote it, yep.
Okay.
Unless you want to continue it until she's actually here.
We're going to open it up and just have a general discussion, see
Okay.
if there are any additional questions. I know you guys were going to go
Yep.
on a site walk last time, and I think Green had an opportunity to delve a little bit deeper into some of these comments, and I think we got them comments back yesterday, so I think they're still
Okay.
finalizing
great.
their
Yeah,
review as
she can watch it via TV and be able to, she hasn't missed any other ones, right? This is it.
No.
So, yeah, so we're good.
Okay.
Okay. So, what would you like to,
Was there any follow-up questions on, were you able to do the site walk? Did anything else arise out of, I know.
Well, and just to bring the board up to speed on all the information that's gone back and forth, the peer review was, by Green International was completed, and then, back and forth and back and forth. Today, we got additional updated information from the applicant in response to those comments. I was able to get most of that posted today.
do we have any outstanding issues with it, or it's it all just,
Well, Green will be able to do their back check
okay.
now that they have the final information. I don't have a recommendation for you yet. And we haven't, the board hasn't had a discussion yet about or I haven't heard any questions from you about traffic impacts.
Do you have a rough idea of what you're proposing to go in there? Is it,
We have a lease out that we're hoping would have been signed by tonight.
all right?
So yes, we do, but we can't disclose that until we have a lease. So it will be a lighter impact than what was proposed, substantially. So all of the counts that we did propose, I know that, there was a MIPA comment from Boxborough that had some concerns related to traffic. Our traffic study had indicated that everything, it was like 98%, all the traffic was going to use 2 and 495. So I think, the intensity of the use that we did propose was a higher commercial vehicle counts than I think what they had asked for. We had Liz Oltman, who was with the engineering group last time. I think she stated that on record. But yes, the proposed use, even though that there were alternative uses requested, all that have been analyzed, and what we hope to be there will be a much lighter intensity.
Well, I think you've gotten the benefit of Amazon being there before you, and knock on wood, it's been just like they proposed. Everything's it hasn't been an impact. We haven't had any complaints from Boxborough, or as far as I know, no complaints from Foster Street residents. The way they proposed everything is actually working pretty good, getting on Route 2, 495, which makes perfect sense. That's why everyone wants to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking about and recalling the process that the board went through for the Amazon site. When that site first came to the town, it was an unknown user. The planning board didn't approve the taking down of the office building, putting in the warehouse. But then when they needed to change the operations at that site so it was for Amazon and include the parking lot next door, that's when you again went through the major commercial use special permit with Amazon, and that's at that point the select board did their host community agreement with the mitigation that happened there. So
Yeah, I don't.
yeah, now we're at the beginning again with a smaller building proposed, suggestion that
impact.
it's a less of an impact.
So, and their type of facility is different. I know that the square footage is relatively, it's not the same, but it's that was what they were alluding to in that comment letter. The intensity of what Amazon does is at a whole nother level than what the users we were ever looking at. And our traffic study did confirm their original projections are what came to fruition. So.
No, I don't think we have any other outstanding. I think Oxbow's done a great job about their part of the mitigation, part of it with the endangered species down there. It is a huge site. I think we all got an idea of how big it actually was. But board have any questions or concerns? Do you want to continue this till the 15th when we get the final impact from Green and Delise will be here? We can finish
Yeah, I
up
think
the-
that works well because the peer review, I know Maren said there was more stuff added today, but I certainly would have seen that information. But there's definitely still a lot of yellow on the peer review sheets, so
That I
there's
saw,
still
yeah.
a lot to have to go through, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the good news is there'll be another round,
Yeah.
you'll be able to look at.
So I don't
Yeah.
think we have any concerns at this
Okay.
time, so we can continue to the 15th?
Perfect. Is the next meeting is the 15th?
Yeah. Yes.
I did have one question. I think in the last meeting, we talked about the MIPA permit being finalized. Did that get done back in June?
The public comments have been received, and that has been closed. We received 2 comments. One was from Boxborough, and one was from Natural Heritage. Boxborough echoed the same, I think, concerns that were already voiced. Natural Heritage, which we actually submitted, it was very positive. It basically said that we've been following the guidelines that, to a T. We've been working with them hand in hand from the start of the project. So those are, we did pass it along to Maren, and
Okay,
you
great.
can be able to see that. The certificate itself should be issued tomorrow, but likely we'll receive it on Monday.
Great.
So,
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Anyone in the audience? No? What time do you want to do it on the 15th?
So if we're starting at 6:30, bicycle and pedestrian master plan, board business discussion on 245 Foster Street, could do this at 7:30?
so it's August 15th is the next,
Is that an issue? I mean, hopefully you'll have everything all done with,
Is it a vacation schedule? thing?
no, it's just a timing schedule with everything else we're working through. Yeah, I think that's fine.
it's my birthday, by the way.
If you're going to be here on your birthday.
I'm going to be here for my
then
birthday.
We'll bring a cake.
No, I don't want a cake. I just want presents. No cake.
Well,
No.
with the board's authorization, I'd be happy to work on a draft decision.
When do we have that, so that we can go back and forth with
Okay.
everybody,
Perfect.
subject to obviously Green's outstanding issues being taken care of. So we use that month to get that squared away.
Sounds good.
That works?
Yes,
See, we're being more accommodating today.
we appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Thank
So,
you.
what time did you say?
It's 7:30?
7:30, good?
See you then.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great, thank you.
Am I back on schedule? I look
Joe
like I
did-
am.
I thought I heard a motion from somebody to continue.
continue till 7:30 on August 15th.
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
We will still be in room 103 on that
All
date.
right. All right, so that's good. So, are you here for the marijuana? Not the free stuff we're giving out, the meeting about the cultivation of marijuana? They've agreed to withdraw their application to grow marijuana there. I don't know if you've been made aware of it. You're more than welcome to stay, but if that's what you're waiting for, he's going to withdraw it. He's going to continue and pursue the option of manufacturing of it, taking the raw product that's already done somewhere else and turning it into gummies or tea or whatever, I don't know. But he's not going to grow it there. He heard what the neighbors had to say. He was, I believe, very sympathetic about it. Didn't want to upset everybody. If it wasn't something people wanted, he decided to withdraw it. Which, so you're more than welcome to stay. You have Springdale Farm.
The sanctuary, we're getting another odor coming from there. And I did speak briefly with the Board of Health.
Mm-hmm.
And I was directed to go to the water department because there is water coming out of sanctuary and going down in the back.
Oh, really?
And it has
Yeah,
a
but that-
septic smell.
Right, that complaint has come to the Land Use and Buildings Department, Conservation, and Board of Health agent did a site walk yesterday evening, and then I circled back with Jim today, and he and I have some site plan questions to look at. Because apparently it's condensate from the chillers.
So, Mr. Gianetta may emphasized that there would be no, it's interesting because he emphasized there's no water, there's a tank that's pumped and taken somewhere else. that
Yeah,
would-
it's not processed water
No, this
Yeah.
is condensation from the
from
chillers.
air
Yeah.
conditioners.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, I don't know if you heard me or you were Mr. Sanders has suggested that moving forward, all growing facilities have to have carbon filters. And I don't know if where Sanctuary is with that, but we're going to forward the letters that Mr. Sanders sent to the Board of Health so that they can take a look at his expertise in the field and the potential maybe that might help with the smell or solve the problem of the smell or something like that. So we will be forwarding that to the Board of Health if you want to follow up with, give us a day or two to get that to them. So,
Thank you.
great. I still have 15 minutes to fill. Well, actually, I have more than that. Well, actually, no, we should probably wait.
Well, as long as you, at 7:15, you take the votes to open and continue and allow the withdrawal of
Yes.
one.
So that's where we have to
Then
wait
the
till.
others are discussions
Yeah,
that
so
you
we can
could,
start right after, but.
you could do whenever.
So, all right, so I have to wait till 7:15 for that anyway. Any other board business we want to talk about for the 10 or 15 minutes we have, or?
I want to go back to the smell. So the smell is coming from water discharged? Wow.
My neighbor called me the other day, and I said to him I had noticed a septic smell in the neighborhood, but I blamed it on somebody, a bunch of people taking a shower maybe at the same time, and it's coming out of their pipe. But evidently it's not. It's coming from the back of the building, and there's water running down through the back, whether their septic tank is overflowing, I don't know.
Yeah, and actually, the Board of Health agent did check that yesterday evening, and it's not septage.
Okay, it's, but it's smell, it's a smell. So it's not necessarily a pot smell, it's just
No.
a smell?
And then whether or not that smell is related to the water is not clear yet, but they are following up on the water issue. With Conservation agent and Board of Health agent.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then the smell issue, again, still, the person to work with is Jim Gareffi.
Does he enjoy being called the smell person?
Didn't probably say that the best way.
Okay, what else? What else we have? You got anything?
Sure. July 18th, next Monday, I'll be at Light and Water disassembling all of their cubicles to move them and relocate them to the lower level library, the old library, so we can start setting up the new offices for the Land Use and Buildings Department. So hopefully by the end of July, we will be relocated from the third floor to the lower level of the old library and up and operational and working towards our other goals.
Oh, good, good.
So what are they gonna be doing?
They pulled a permit for renovation and upgrades. Their equipment's about 20 years old, but it'll suit us just fine.
Sure.
It'll be new to us.
What about 550? Have we had a chance to go in there?
Well, we took a look. The Napoli company was certainly generous enough to offer anything that we might want. We're trying to avoid any conflicts in the future, so we thought it'd be better just to take from within.
And then eventually backfill it from somewhere else.
Yeah, there's always buildings that are.
But is there a lot of stuff there? I'm assuming there's probably tons of stuff in there.
Well, at IBM, it's
Oh, isn't
beautiful.
it? IBM's gone, right?
IBM's gone, but they left behind beautiful, beautiful equipment and furniture and,
Yeah.
but
There's like a
we'll-
cafeteria there and.
Yeah, it's really nice stuff, but we figured just to avoid any impropriety or conflict, we'll stick with town-owned equipment.
Well, we'll put it all in the Tuttle House, and we'll get the Tuttle House, we get what's in it. Yeah, do you know anything going on with the Tuttle House, or is it still, town's still just mulling over whether or not what to do with the Tuttle House? We've been offered the Tuttle House, so the town has gone over to take a look at it, and
Yeah, I think there's
It's
a lot
still
of
too
draft
early.
language that needs to be created and approved by both the planning board and select board to accept it, so.
yeah, I
And
know
we'll
it's
decide what-
way too early for it, but it's,
But it's exciting to know that it's available.
right, it'd be beautiful with the green that's gonna stay right there and the walls, and I'm not so sure I agree with who might go in there, but you never know.
Yeah, I think as a board, you could probably influence the discussion on who goes there and when. So
No, they're not gonna listen to us.
You'd be surprised.
Oh, really? We have that kind of pull?
You have some influence.
I doubt it, anyway.
Mr. Chair, do we have other residents here for the 537 Cape Road?
Yes, the 537 Great Road, the cultivation of the marijuana has been taken off the table. We're at 7:15, we will withdraw without prejudice. We are going to let Mr. Gianetto look into the process of manufacturing, taking raw product that's made somewhere else and then turn it into gummies or edibles or some other thing. So, but he has decided, after listening to all the residents, that he wants to be a good neighbor, doesn't want to have any ill will, so he's decided to withdraw that. We do have Springdale coming up. I don't know if you're here for that as well, so you're welcome to stay. But yeah, just to let you know that that is not going to be, we're going to continue that one in 7 minutes. So. But I think it was nice that David listened to the letters that you sent, saw him, and was, concerned that he wants to be a good neighbor. He lives in town and decided that he didn't want to offend anyone, and has decided not to pursue that. So I guess the power of the pen works once in a while. So anyway, so you're more than welcome to stay for our 7:30, which may be a little sooner than 7:30. Anyway, all right, thank you. Anything else? We're good?
The Land Use and Buildings Department has hired a new office coordinator, Brenda Pelletier. She started 2.5 weeks ago and then left on a pre-planned mission trip, and we wish her well, and obviously we look forward to her quick return. It was nice to have somebody in the office for the 2.5 weeks. And
Like when you said she left, I'm thinking, oh my God.
Yeah, she's quickly become a very important part of the department.
Good.
Very pleasant to work with, and she's learning a lot and brings a lot of experience with her. The manner that she responds to anybody that comes with a question is great.
Have you heard from the Here Homestead people about how they're going to, do the historic house? Is there any, as they move forward with that? I mean, we know that they're gonna make it
Preserve it.
into units, but
That's a great question. So
but the
we-
stabilization
Yeah,
of it.
in the building department, we received updated engineering drawings for structural improvements.
Mhm.
So they've been submitted as an amendment to the original building permit.
Okay.
That building is definitely not square, not plumb, not level.
That's why it's old.
Yep. And, every time I go over there, they say, come on, man. I'm just like, sorry, guys, it's not my, sure, you committed to it, do it well.
Yeah, they committed to it.
And they should be able to, I mean,
Yes.
They're well on their way.
Yeah.
The project super is committed to it and understands that that's what they need to complete.
No, I've been impressed just driving by the way the site is managed and, the phasing. And it looks like they're using stress panels on the walls and
Yep.
the roof. Or is it just the walls? It's just the walls.
It's panelized walls, yeah, not the roof. It's truss roof system.
Mhm.
They did complete the sewer connection today underneath the retaining wall outside of the parking lot. So the force main, actually, that paved patch you see through the middle of our parking lot is their sewer main tying into the town, so.
Is that what the traffic backup for the past week is?
No, that was water.
Oh, that was water?
That was water.
Took that long to do water?
Yeah, there was a couple of extra connections. They also found a few things that were hidden, typical when you dig up a road.
No bodies, right?
So.
Anyway, what about the other house out there? The last structure that's still in its little cage over there, when is that gonna be renovated? Any idea?
That's actually probably going to be moved to one of the last portions of the project, because that's now going to be the community house.
Okay.
So they're looking to get the housing built, and that's the plan.
So have they been holding off on the flats because of the historic building, or why
No,
hasn't
it's the
that?
phasing.
Okay.
It's the phasing and actually the availability of their concrete.
Have a structural slab poured over
Yeah.
the piers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how they're doing it there?
Well, I assume because.
No, that's what those
Yeah,
are.
yeah. Yeah, that's usually what happens when you're building over what used to be a pond.
You don't need a basement anymore. Basements were overrated. So, all right, a couple more. Anything else? Lauren, you have anything else? Make something up.
So when do you guys think you'd be moving down then?
So, end of July, we hope to be in there occupying the space.
That's like 2 weeks, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
so, gonna build a fancy entrance counter, so that'll be my little project. Something a little more than folding tables.
So are you gonna submit the design to the planning board to make sure that it's?
Is that
Just
your
for the
little
town administrator for.
parking spot on the side over there now? Is that all designated for you guys over there?
It's nice to be out of the way. Doors don't get dinged by residents and comings and goings of everyday traffic.
So then in the big picture, what happens to your old space?
So when we originally, were going through town hall trying to build consensus on, the first question that we were all asking is, where should people go? Does anybody have any interest in the space? And Park and Rec was really the one that drove the second and third floor of the old library, leaving the lower level available, and we're probably the second largest office in town hall, so with the most foot traffic outside of, well, tax collector and town clerk certainly get their share as well.
Mhm.
But with our size and our office hours are earlier than everybody else's, it was nice to have a separate entrance on a lower level. We do a lot of business with the contractors, so they come in with muddy boots, throughout the day, so to have them not going all the way up to the third floor in town hall, should help maintain the cleanliness of town hall as well. And then, but when we were building that consensus and talking it through, it looks like finance might follow us as we go down. They'll do a quick paint job on the walls and move up. And they'll probably take our space as well as the HR office that used to be 307, another former meeting room. And then HR will probably move down to the finance offices.
Okay.
It helps us meet some compliance issues we have now with ADA and AAB as well. The counter that we have in the building department meets those requirements. The temporary counter for the tax collector shall soon meet it.
Okay.
So we're working towards, there's a lot of little goals in all of this.
What?
It's raining, your top's down. In the car.
How bad is it raining?
It's a sun shower, but it's still raining.
All right, well, I haven't made it anyway. Unless you guys missed out on it.
Should have put the top up, but I'm optimistic.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's ready.
So we're just killing time until.
So,
this is perfect timing.
But when Mark gets back, we'll just make the motion.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mark was saying there's a ton of opposition now.
Maybe it's-
Yeah. Good. That's good.
I started with chapter 18, because that's the TDR chapter.
So you're gonna miss your meeting?
Did you get my email?
Yes, I did.
Because those are our best offices.
Robinson, sorry.
Like if I was a town administrator, I would have taken one
I
of
did,
those.
yeah. he
That's
did.
where Tim always was.
Oh, okay.
However, the air conditioning for that whole section, it works really well down on my end, but it doesn't work very well down by the inspector's end, and they like it much cooler than I do. So I'm in there with jackets on.
It's always the HVAC that there are the complaints and fights about.
And then Lucia and the assistant conservation administrator are both sharing a little office with no windows.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's going to be
very
very relevant.
professional space to have them in, so being in all in a space.
You short out the power windows?
Would be nice.
What?
You short out the power windows?
No, everything's good.
Just to get rid of a little pollen, that's all. Okay, we're back on 7:15. We have a Continue public hearing, adult use marijuana special permit. Cultivation, as I, excuse me, alluded to earlier, Mr. Gianetta has decided not to proceed with the growing of marijuana down there, so he's asked to withdraw without prejudice. But he will continue to expand on possible manufacturing of marijuana products there. So have we continued him to a date specific?
Yep, so I recommend 2 votes. One is for the board to address the request to withdraw the marijuana cultivator application, and then the second to continue, well, allow them to withdraw without prejudice, and then the second would be to continue the public hearing for the product manufacturer for that site to August 15th, 7:45.
So, continuing it, because was that incorporated into the prior application?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and both. He had applied to the state for both of them. So,
Right, and our the application to the planning board did include that.
yeah. So we're gonna,
Well, I move that we allow the applicant at 537 Great Road to withdraw without prejudice his application for marijuana cultivation at that site.
Second.
second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And we'll continue the manufacturing of it until August 15th. Just so they understand, he's listened to what everybody had to say. He saw all the letters from all the residents about the concern with the smell, and he decided that he didn't want to go forward with it. What he does want to continue with is the repackaging of a product somewhere else and turn it into either take the oil that the marijuana creates and make gummies with it or something like that on site for distribution within the company that he owns. And he wants to have the ability to continue with that. So we'll continue that discussion till August 15th. We have to vote it.
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll continue that. So, we can jump, we have an informal discussion with the owners of Springdale Farm about uses and activities, new opportunities there. We can, since it's an informal discussion, we can probably start it now. You want to give us an overview of what your thoughts are out there?
My name is Jamie. I own 571 Great Road. Many
Do you want
know us.
to, it's probably better off if you do.
Really?
Also, we're on TV now.
Okay,
We're the
all
big
right.
time.
Many know us, Springdale Farm. For the past 2 years, we've been dealing with a significant family transition, which has put the future of the 60 acres there, which you see up on that map, into some family turmoil. So I'm actively farming the upper portion, so the left-hand side of that map, with fruits and vegetables. And the second half of the farm, towards the back there, was started on a reclamation plan back in 2017, I think. It was land that was farmed up until about 1973. My great-grandfather was getting older, and he just shrunk the production side of the family farm back, which we're farming the front at this point. All of that had come to a halt because the future of the farm was kind of in limbo. The other property owner is a family member and has brought forward that they need to be bought out of their 50% stakeholding in the farm property. So we started the farm stand reconstruction, and we're not complete with that. I'm looking to put that back acreage back into production. It's never been tilled or growing vegetables in my lifetime. The 50% that I have to buy out, the value of it is, my price is $2 million. I am your typical dirt farmer. I am land rich and cash poor. So after meeting with bank after bank, despite my farm business growing and what I think to be successful. We have to add another component to the farming operation that can help me subsidize the mortgage payment that will be needed for me to save the family farm. Most everybody in Littleton knows us. There's not many active farms left. This farm originally back in the 1700s had 2,700 acres with it. It stretched all the way over to Groton. My family is pretty new when it comes to agriculture in Littleton. My family moved here from Greece in 1931, and we've been on the land now for 5 generations. I have a 4-year-old that works with me every day. He's the 5th generation, and my daughter, who's 1. John here owns a family business up the street, so we've kind of put our heads together. We're going to sell our house over on Hartwell Avenue, hopefully move back to the family farm, and we're here to talk with you about the bylaw that was put into town meeting back in 2011 to allow farms to have some other component besides roadside stands and market gardens and everything. So I guess, is there any specific questions on that? He can talk with you about what we're planning and hopeful to do back there to help us, again, make the mortgage payment and keep the balance of the farm in production, but also put that back acreage back into growing fruits and vegetables for our community.
I think everyone would be concerned, could be interested in what you're planning on doing to augment the farming aspect. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. I'm John Durkin. Jamie and I have been together and have our 2 sweet children together there. So I own a family business out of Acton. Onyx Corporation is the name of the business. We have a sand and gravel operation. Some of you may know us. Trying to come up with creative ways to generate supplemental income for Jamie and the farm to support buying out her mother, and also looking to expand on a current operation that we have, which is a small mulch operation, and we're trying to come up with creative ways with assistance from my family business on how we can supplement the income of the farm, as well as the massive amount of work that is needed to turn those fields into productive fields. And we have extremely shallow bedrock. Any of you that know that area, what was the original name of the farm?
Scratch Flat.
It was called Scratch Flat because the only part that was flat was down below, and everything above it is bedrock. I've been working there on weekends, helping out for the last 5 years, and any of you that know the farm have probably seen quite a transition with the farm stand and everything else, but it needs something else. And some ideas that we've come across that we want to present to the board and request a special permit for. We have 32 acres roughly of cleared land that was cleared in 2017. We have about 7,000 to 8,000 cubic yards of stumps that have been pulled from weekend efforts and long holiday weekends and wherever I could fit it in. And they've been sitting on the ground for about 3 years. We took a lot of the money that we were investing in that, stopped that reclamation project, focused on the farm stand, finally got that open, which I'm very proud of all of us for doing. And now that's open, which is a relief. We have a great customer base, and I think now it's going to cost in the vicinity of probably $500,000 to $1 million on top of buying out the other family member to get that into production. And what we're trying to do is come up with a way to grind the stumps on site, which we don't have to have a permit for, under my understanding and talking with the building department. We can reclaim the field and pick away at that as we will, but it still doesn't produce much more income or accessory use for the farm. We've talked to some of the mulch suppliers that sell us mulch now that we currently stockpile in the cul-de-sac on Old Great Road, and they buy ground wood chips. You guys have seen probably stump chunks in Donaldson's for sale for starting fires. That company specifically buys a 6-inch chip back from us, and luckily enough my corporation has a grinder that can take care of that. And we'd like to grind all the stumps on site, and we'd like to backhaul them in the wintertime and haul in mulch. And that operation would supplement my business as well as Jamie's, because we would save some money on trucking as fuel is out of control. So if trucks can go both ways, it makes the whole operation better for Jamie's farm and our little side business of mulch. And so that's one intention we'd like to do. The stump grinding will probably take in the vicinity of 2 years to complete. Its whole entire operation. By the time we pull it all, grind it all, shear it all, I can't promise that we'd ever be able to haul down enough mulch and haul away enough chips to do it in a year. Might be a few. But we are proposing an area out in the back that's shown on this diagram. And we were proposing to then also begin to strip the land off, the topsoil off that's just loaded with boulders. Anybody's welcome to come for a walk. It's untillable in its current status. Shallow topsoil, 2 to 3 inches of topsoil there with 6 to 8 inches of subsoil. So the strata of soil is not deep enough for planting. So we'd like to have the opportunity to import compostable material and or topsoil to screen, supplement the fields with, and begin to rebuild them in pieces. It could take us 10 years. But we don't want this to turn into a major operation there, but we want everybody to be aware when they see, and if you grant us the permit, what we're doing, why we're doing it. I've heard of a lot of people in town going the wrong route. I don't want to be associated with that. We want to tell you everything that we're thinking so that everybody can absorb it, as well as our neighbors, to understand what we're thinking. So we've strategically looked at the farm and where is the worst ground to do this on, and that's what we're showing on this map in the back left corner here. It's approximately 4.5 acres out there. And what we proposed was that we would push sections of topsoil and create that berm that I described on the drawing there, which is that clouded red area. I don't know if you can zoom in there, Maren, just to let everybody in the room see a little bit easier. So that is actually a bit of a hill there that is straight bedrock. You strip off 4 inches of soil and you got a little bit of subsoil and you're basically on rock there. Probably one of the worst places to begin farming. So what Jamie and I had came up with was that would probably be the best location to begin the reclamation process, be able to screen the rocks out and begin to respread them on the field as we work the site. And there's a berm there that I've shown, which we have a lot of experience with trying to deflect noise and things like that, and all of our neighbors are on Beaverbrook that abut this project that would be within the closest house a little over 500 feet away. This would basically be a berm of topsoil that we would work on the backside, but it would keep a visual break between the noise when the screening operation's going on. We're probably talking about a few hours to 4 hours a day. We'd screen. It'd be a couple days a week here and there as we have time. A lot of this will be done by me, and probably on Saturdays whenever I can. We would hope to complete the reclamation within 10 years. It's a lot of land and it requires a lot of money. And we're going to generate field stone out of the fields, which we'd like the opportunity to sell if we don't want to use it. We have a lot of walls on the property now that we want to rebuild with some of it, but I'd like to get rid of whatever we can out of it because it's going to be a burden. We'd like to crush. There's a lot of really big boulders out there, which Ed and I have spoken about. We would like to crush the rock and make roadways through the farm, which will save us having to buy that material and import it. That operation's probably a month out of the year for the next couple of years, here and there, as we can afford to do it and have time to do it. And we'd also have a current composting operation that I showed on the map. It's actually in 2 or 3 locations where Jamie has a very small area that uses the food waste from the farm stand that's not used. And the rest of it is leaves and a few other things are generated off of cleaning the field. A lot of straw that's cleaned up off the strawberries, and we compost that material and Jamie uses it as planting media, but it's a very small operation. We have found a few resources for leaf litter, which is what we'd like to bring in and supplement the topsoil with, and blend the two together and spread a lot of it back on the fields. Try to increase our depth of soil, and we have no intention of going for a composting facility if that's what everybody's fear is, and we would sign that in blood. But we're looking to be able to import leaves, mix them with topsoil, lay them back down the field, and create a product.
And I think that'll help supplement our little landscape business that you serve most of your CSA members with sales on mulch and a little bit of surplus topsoil and things like that. So
That's it.
that's basically what we're trying to do. And if anybody has any questions about the operations part of it, I can answer that. If you have any questions about history of the farm or anything, we're both here to answer it.
I'll start with the board and then I'll open up to public.
Sure.
Anyone have any questions or concerns?
I just have comments. I just was thrilled when you cleared that that backland. It's just a beautiful landscape. And everything that you described seems really ambitious. And I'm wondering do you know of anyone else who's undergone this wholesale reclamation of formerly cultivated land?
Davidian.
Have you talked to anyone about it?
Why don't you speak to that? I don't know a whole lot about it, but we did. Davidian Farm is a local farm.
Yeah, Davidian's
Okay.
in North Borough.
Yeah.
So, honestly, a lot of folks in my situation would just take
Yes.
that back piece and put it up for development, because it takes a lot of money. We have a very unique situation because of his background in his family business and my land and my farm. So, I mean, why not embrace it? So, I've been there my whole life, and since I was little, I always loved it back there, because when you're back there, you can't see 119, and you feel like you're in a totally different world, the way the land slopes and everything. My family grazed livestock back there, and some of it was cultivated. It's bony. I can see why they said to
Grazed.
hell with it.
A lot of it was previous. When we cleared it, there was a lot of remnants from fruit trees out there in the stony ground, so you could see that was, they didn't have the effort with horses to get the rock out. Luckily now we have horsepower, so.
We've been approached by some solar companies and all of that about that, because just the way the land's designed, and cell towers and all that through the years, and developers, and I want to grow food and that, so.
Well, what strikes me is the other example is Apple Dior, which was a bony, almost, uncut, you couldn't cultivate it, you could barely grow apple trees, you really could barely put houses on it, and yet they did, and, it would be terrible if, no offense to Apple Dior, but it would be terrible if that beautiful piece of property went that way.
Well, I mean, the alternative is if I can't make that mortgage payment selling fruits and vegetables at my roadside stand. So just trying to come up with creative ways by using the tools that we have in our toolbox to save it. So this is what we've come up with. So we're hoping that we
We
can have
wanna-
the blessing of the board and
As
We
far,
want to build out, we'd like to build a house out there for us.
well,
So
you
it's
seem
not
like
going
you
to be
have
a
enough
bomb
land,
show.
but-
That's what I want everybody to know is.
But the other thing is that the other example I can think of is where the town sort of expanded the concept of sort of accessory agricultural use was Cataldo's, where that was pure retail. There's very little agriculture going on there, but yet, the town has supported that over the years. In your description, besides being subject to the noise bylaw, I don't see what I just don't see how the town could reach in and, I think it's great that you're proactively sharing your plans, but I don't see how you would run afoul of any, Ed might disagree, but,
Well, let me talk about the bylaw we wrote in 2011.
okay.
We did that just to augment, and I thought it was more along the Danny Pickard, things along that line to try to save the family farms. 2011, Janet Levine, myself, you were right before your time, but we all we were approached about other things to put on the farm to help try to keep the family farm staying in Littleton. And Danny was a perfect example because Danny does hay, he does wood, he does stuff that's all really kind of considered farming. But if you take it to the next level, what else can we help you with to keep the farm? So we came up with, some repair stuff out there, some incidental stuff, not really. I think our biggest fear was we didn't really want to see a real gravel operation. We didn't want to see the composting, the large-scale composting. The small stuff that's farm-related, I don't think anybody has a problem with that. It's the large scale, if you bring it in big.
Yeah.
We had the issue with the gravel over at, that you just closed down, yeah. Yeah, we don't really want to see something like that, but we will, clearing it off to make it farming, I think we can all appreciate that and understand that. The noise and the smell is what's gonna probably be the biggest thing. I'm sure when I open up, that probably would.
It won't be, I mean, there was times when we had 150 pigs there in recent years at a time. It won't be anywhere comparable to that.
Right. Does the board have any, Violet, do you have any questions or concerns before I open up to the public?
No, I want to commend you for trying to keep the farm. I think that's really wonderful. My only question really is the location of the berm. It seemed to me from looking at it that the short side of that rectangle is closer to Beaverbrook Road than the long side. And I thought that the berm might extend up
Yeah,
towards the top of the
we
frame.
could make it
there.
an L. I mean, I was just kind of trying to throw it up there as a
Right.
kind of a depiction. I asked one of the people that works for me that has a drone to fly the site and take that image so we could see the whole thing. You know, there's close to 60 acres there, and if you look, it's not even half in production right now.
Right.
And that's just a beautiful image. Jamie, you should be really proud
Thanks.
of that farm that's shown.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
So I mean, my main concern is the noise. I mean, I really think everything you're suggesting makes a lot of sense, and I like that it's sort of self-contained within the family in terms of the stumps and the rocks.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, but I think the neighbors, even 500 feet, 600 feet, the noise is a real issue, and on Beaverbrook Road, there's also the gun club, so those neighbors are, bombarded by noise all the time from that.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to add to that situation.
Yeah, part of our reason for picking that spot, and we're open for input if there's a better spot that somebody thought, but that was the toughest piece to reclaim. It would be the furthest visibility-wise from the road. It would be the furthest, we believe, from most of the neighbors. We tried to keep it close to that light plant transformer location, and the Mathesons, which are behind us, have no residential.
Right.
So we tried to keep it along that edge. And then currently we have the mulch piles on the cul-de-sac at the end of old Great Road there. And we have truck traffic coming down that road, delivering mulch and going out with deliveries and going by the neighbors' driveways and everything else. We're hoping to kind of clean that up and go back to its regular use and have a main road. You can see the logging road, that's what we call it, through the center of the site. It goes right between the fields. And we would use that existing roadway for all the deliveries in and out of material. And we'd make a roadway from there up into the back corner. Was what we were hoping to do. So we thought it would hopefully improve the people that live on Old Great Road and the trucks that would be turning on and off of Beaverbrook.
Yeah,
They wouldn't have to do that.
That sounds like an improvement. The other question is, could you make your operations area longer and thinner and run along that
Absolutely.
top property line? And
Absolutely,
just
yeah.
sort
Absolutely.
of, I mean, 'cause,
Yeah, we could even have two spots. I was just looking for input and
Okay.
wanted to discuss it, and I didn't want everybody to not know what we were thinking, and wanted to see if we needed a special permit, if we should get one. And we believe we do. We believe we need a special permit, but we'd just like to know. It's really the expansion of that little landscape materials business,
Yeah.
and reclaiming the farm is the goal, so.
Anna, do you have any questions?
I don't think I have any questions. I just wanted to say that it's a real joy to be able to go to your farm and be able to purchase produce. So to be able to continue to do that would be great. And from the bylaw, I think that the only comment was around whether the work that you plan to do is agriculture related, and the composting and the mulching definitely is. So I don't see any concerns from the 2011 bylaw. And so I would just hope that the work that you're planning on doing will really help be sustainable for you for a while.
We do too.
We're praying that works. Everybody's gonna keep buying produce and mulch.
I'd like to, I think some of the residents here probably. So if you want to raise your hand, I'll acknowledge you, and then you can say your name for Myron for the minutes. So, anyone have any questions or concerns? Ma'am?
Hi, I'm Margie Wheeler, and I abut their property in the back, where you want to do this gravel. And my neighbor Rick Finley and my other neighbor John Mitchell didn't know about this meeting, and they're away. So I hope nothing gets voted on tonight without more input, because they are abutters as well. And I've been there, next week it'll be 50 years. Jamie wasn't even born. And this is all kind of terrifying for me. I have a gun club across the street, and I'm going to have a gravel thing going on. Is that a long-term thing, or is it short-term?
Well, the mulch business and,
gravel.
you know, there's no gravel,
Well,
so there's no intention.
I heard, see, there's rumors, but I heard that you're breaking up stone to
So,
make gravel.
Yeah, so we did just a quick flyover, and if we figured we took a foot of rocks out of the whole site, there's like 30,000 yards of rocks. So I was trying to come up with a creative way to use them, so we didn't have to buy gravel to make the roadways. So I had actually discussed with the building department how we could do that. And the best way to do it is to gather the stones from the soil and then crush them and make gravel base for the roadways, so we could extend that logging road.
What kind of decibel level are you talking?
It depends at what distance it is. You know, right at the plant, you would have to have earplugs on, but at, you know, distances away from it, you can gauge it. It's, as soon as you create a visual break in the noise, you reduce it by 5 times. So that's kind of why I was thinking we'd try to put the berm up, you know, before we did any kind of crushing activities. And that would be from stripping the topsoil into that area to then screen the rocks out. What will be left is a big pile of rocks that we pick away at crushing and try to position the crusher on the backside. But we can crush in the vicinity of 15 to 20,000 yards of rocks in a 1 month period, Monday through Friday, 8-hour day. So we figure if we did it 1 month out of the first year and maybe 1 month out of the second year, we wouldn't have any need to crush any more rock after that point. So we just to establish access for the tractors, and vehicles would be bringing in soils, and the mulch guys, so. Yep.
So so we're talking about bringing in mulch, so that's.
Backhauling the stump grindings.
Right.
This
so that-
isn't gonna turn into like a aggregate facility.
Right.
It's just not.
That's
That's
what I'm
not my
trying to-
intentions. Like, if
We are
I-
not
if-
mining the
if-
land.
If I have to mine the land, I'm just gonna let it go for development. And it's basically, I come up with a way to supplement myself in making the mortgage payment, or her half goes for houses.
Okay. So we have the mulching, we have the chipping, and actually the gravel operation would be subject to our noise bylaw and enforced by the, we have that in place from everything that's going on at Middlesex, or whatever they're called, aggregate industries now. So we have that, and we'd have to make sure that they adhere to that. But most of the stuff I think they're talking about, with the exception of the noisy grinding up, is stuff they're already doing now. The bringing in large volumes of mulch and selling it in smaller loads to other people. I don't think anybody really has a concern over that, because that's farming.
Is there any recourse if it becomes untenable?
If it's noisy, you call the building department, and the building department will go over, and just like we had an issue years ago with rocks and stuff over at
The stone yard.
the stone yard, and we had people over there, we limited their hours of operations, we made them put up noise to deaden it. We also, at aggregate, we made them put mats up to dissipate the sound at the crushers. So there is recourse if it is a noisy operation, so there is stuff we can do, so.
Yeah, anything to, you know, physically break that. If you can see the noise, you can hear it. So anything to physically break it, that's the point of the mat. So we'd certainly, we don't want this to create a burden on anybody there. You know, we'll do our best to avoid that.
Mr. Sanders.
Yeah, George Sanders, 672 Great Road. Is the farm 60 acres on the 61A?
Yes.
How much of the 60 acres is now going to be used for the program, the business that you want to put in there?
4.5.
Yeah, about 4.5 acres is what we drew. We don't,
4.5, which will go what, commercial?
No,
Still
it still falls under agriculture.
just the operation, I think, is, the footprint is 4.5 acres where we need that room to pile the soil, screen out the rocks, crush the rocks, pile the mulch.
So let me understand. So what is this business that you're going to put in there?
It's our business, and it's to help us put that land back.
Well, I understand that, but what is the business? Because you're saying it's not commercial, you're saying it's under agriculture.
I'm doing some of that up at about 6 o'clock on that map. You can see that. I'm doing it. I'm already making my own compost there on a smaller scale.
So what we're looking to do is import from the local community and other local communities their leaf waste, which currently right now gets hauled to Western Mass. People are calling all the time to get rid of it. So we're hoping we can take it in. Those leaves will rot out, put them in windrows, mix them with our topsoil, run them through our screener, get the rocks out, which blends the soils, put them back down the fields. And we'd like to be able to grind up the stumps and supplement the mulch business by being able to export the stump grindings in trade for trucking for the mulch coming in. So we'll make the business, Jamie's mulch business, little landscape business better, more viable.
I don't have a problem with what you want to do, but I just wanted to make sure that that what you're doing, it falls under criteria of agriculture.
I think that's what our concern is, to make sure.
Yeah, that's why we're here. We want to verify that
Is
it
agricultural.
complies and that, you know.
Not a commercial gravel operation and stuff, but agricultural.
Yep.
An augmentation to the agriculture is what's going on there.
Yep.
That's what I think the board, if I listen to what you guys have to say.
Yeah, I mean, what you're describing is a process to reclaim and create more cultivatable. I don't know what the word is.
It's hard to understand because nobody's doing it
Well, this is why I
anymore.
asked you about if you have an
Yeah.
example, because it's very ambitious.
So Davidian Farm,
Yeah.
that example that we spoke about earlier,
Yeah.
just to give everybody the background, they're an active farm with CSA,
Mhm.
much like Jamie's business. They're in Boston? West Boston.
I think they're in West Boston. I think I've seen them, yeah.
And so they have an operation right adjacent to the farm where they take
Mm-hmm.
in compost and food waste from all communities and trash companies and everything. You know, they had gotten a big pickle over the smell from the community.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that was driven from the use of food waste and trying to utilize the food waste into the compost, which accelerates its activity. And Ed Davidian, who's a good friend of ours, said to us, as long as you don't bring in food waste, nobody's gonna complain, it doesn't smell.
But he was using the compost
And
for
he had to
his,
suspend that operation because the whole community
Yeah.
came against him, just like the pot operation we were talking about, the
Right.
smell that everybody's gonna experience, so.
but
we have no intention
he's
of that.
using that compost to enhance his
Enhance his
agriculture.
agricultural use, and he has the same type of business. He has a mulch business, a little topsoil business, small landscape business that's tied to the farm, and, you know, he sells his surplus and,
Mhm.
you know.
They
that's-
too are just finishing up their big family buyout and transition too, so it's a
Okay,
very,
so that's
very
another-
comparable.
Very similar, so that's why we
Comparison,
talked
okay.
with them, so.
Anyone else? Any questions? I'll start with Ed, and I'll go with you. All right.
So, no questions for me. I've had a lot of conversations with both Jamie and John regarding this, and happy that they brought it forward, and I'm glad that they're here in front of the board tonight. Certainly willing to work with them from our perspective as the zoning enforcement officer to help them comply with the noise bylaw before they even are operational. I know that there will be some abutter concern, but at the same time, I believe a lot of the abutters are really into the open space, so, I'd like to see them also take that into consideration. We're well aware of what happened to our Christmas tree farm, our apple orchard at Apple Dior, so I think it's important that we support what's being proposed, and my office will do everything they can to make sure they are in compliance with our noise bylaw and any other bylaws that apply.
I think it would be really helpful if you gave us you wrote it down and gave it to us, what you're proposing to do, so that everyone has a list of what you're doing. And I'll be the first to tell you that if there's a smell or something, he's gonna be out there, and composting's gonna be a dicey one, and if you can do it correctly and no one's complaining, I don't think you're gonna have a problem from anybody on this board, or the residents, but it's gonna be driven by how you interact with
Spanish,
it.
right.
Yeah. But so why don't we get something for you for next meeting so that we can weigh in on it, give you your marching orders.
Yeah, we wanted to come in and get feedback, right? I mean, we want to do this right. We want it to come out right. We want everybody to understand what we're doing. I know when everybody saw it get cleared, they probably all went, "Oh my God," you know.
No, I think
It's
No, I
I
think
think
people
they're
were
happy
excited.
that you're expanding the
Yeah.
farm, but I think they don't want to have it at.
we'd love to formalize it too, so that there
Okay.
is no question later when
Yeah.
new people move in the community too and start questioning,
What's going on?
just like this gentleman did. What is it that they're doing? We want to make sure we're doing it right and it's acceptable.
So by having that information, that allows us to create the special permit.
Right.
Okay. Just wanted to
I'll
check.
take a couple more. Your name, please, for Mara.
Justine Stedman, 17 Old Great Road. So he's talked about the landscaping business. The landscaping business is on the cul-de-sac. Has Littleton given them permission to use that? Because what happens is Littleton electric trucks come down and they can't turn around, so guess where they turn around? My driveway.
Well, they're talking about moving that all off of there if I was.
Well, is it
moving-
part of the farm?
Yeah, so
Actually,
you can speak to that. There's a land grant in place for us to use that. They took that from the farm in the early.
when they
50s.
took a portion
Eminent
of,
domain, I think,
Yeah.
in which case they own it, not you guys.
They own it, but.
actually,
it's
if
used.
you go back into state record, you'll find that my family was granted full access to that because they took one of our entry ways into our barn where we had livestock at the time. It was long before I was there. In exchange, when they straightened what they would call Dead Man's Corner up there out. And you know, with all due respect, I have concerns with you dumping your stuff up there too. So, I mean, I guess we have to continue to be neighbors and agree to disagree. But we would make plans to move that out. Plus, I'm sure everybody has seen what is slated for the proposal on 119 and the rotary or roundabout that is going in there. So I'm sure that Old Great Road and that dead-end cul-de-sac that no one accesses besides myself, that it's all going to go away.
So it is going to go away because Littleton Electric has nowhere to turn around because that landscaping business, the mulch is on the cul-de-sac.
We can actually turn around 18-wheelers up there, but okay.
Okay, all right. It's
All
a-
right, the other
I'll
thing
speak.
that I just wanted to question is there going to be any, like, explosives used? Because, like, my house is on ledge, a lot of the neighborhoods is, and if there was explosives, it could potentially crack our foundations. The other thing, you know, you're requesting information on dust. You know, you start crushing rocks, you get dust. And the other thing that I wanted to know was, are you going to be using hydraulics, like to crush the stones for 8 hours a day? Or, you know, I know it's good for you to say you're going to, you know, protect us on the noise, but how about some information on what type of machinery is going to be used and that?
Question operation, okay.
Yeah, I can include cut sheets on it so everybody understands.
Dynamite, I don't think so. They're gonna need a
Absolutely not.
state permit to do that.
Only if we were building our house and needed it would we ever use that, you know, but.
Because sometimes now you get rid of a big rock, you drill in a thing, and you put in like this kind of plastic stuff, and it busts the rock apart.
You need a
So
permit to do
they
that.
don't intend to do any of that.
No, they need a permit through the
Right.
state and through the fire marshal's
Yeah.
office to do that. I don't think they're gonna be trying to get that.
So most of it's going to get crushed by hydraulics, I know.
Mechanical,
manually
yeah,
crushed.
mechanically crushed.
And then the gravel isn't leaving the property, it's staying there?
Their intention of building.
We're gonna
roads.
reuse it to build all the roads.
We're
And
not looking for a commercial operation, just so you, we're not looking for commercial operation, we're looking for augmentation to their farming to keep their farming viable. If they were talking about a commercial operation where they were expanding and doing stuff that's not farming, then I think they would have more of an issue with this board. But it appears that all they want to do is reclaim 40 acres of farmland the best way they can, the most economical way they can with what they have out there.
Sure. But they did say it was 61A, so if it's not farming, doesn't the state look at this? No?
I would say you'd have to say that's farming. I don't,
That's what?
I would say that's farming. What they're proposing to do is a,
But there is restrictions on the development on 61A, and that's state, not
but they're not
local.
planning on development, they're planning
Yeah,
on
we're trying to
farming.
avoid development, that's what we're trying to do,
So,
buy it out, so,
anyway, we'll get a list from them of everything they've got proposed, and then we can see it at the next meeting and get that. Anyone else? Name?
I'm Mary Vermel, and I live at 15 Old Great Road, right next to Justine, and I live on this side of the farm. I love that the farm's there. Two things. One, could we get maps and details so we understand where this exactly is going to happen? And then would there be assurances as to where, what is managed and maintained and contained for this? And then the third question would be, what's the future plan? Because it sounds like that's 4.85 acres, something like that, of a much larger space that's still not cultivated. So does that thing suddenly start moving around and now we've got more? So could that be a future update as well?
it wouldn't be upsized. We don't feel that, if anything, it will get smaller over time because we'll gain on the progress of the property. So, I mean, we feel just in the amount of soil we have to pile to then come in and crush and rocks we gotta pile, it occupies a pretty big area. So, and we would never be able to do the entire operation in 1 year by any means. It's like we talked, I don't know if you were here, but about probably 10 years to get the farm reclaimed to a point where it's all under production. But we'd like to tie on at the end of the existing fields where they abut and start to work in sections. And we would be working the section on the Beaverbrook side to reclaim first. The worst soils and ground are up in that corner. So that would be how we would.
We'll try to get a schedule and a.
Yeah, I can give I can add to this map and put a direction of development and try to share that with everybody to make it easier for everybody to understand.
And I think all of us understanding what would the noise be like, what would the dust we'd expect, what would the health issues be associated with dust particles in the air, not to mention devaluing property next door that you spend a lot of time beautifying. So, thank you.
Can you get some information from, or maybe you can, from aggregate to their hours of operation, their decibel levels that are out there, and the dust issues that are going on with the crushing operation that we have in town now? So we can at least give the residents some idea of what they expect.
We can work with them. We also just did a reduction in hours over at Halloran's Farm with the Plnbrd loam and the screening that they were doing there. It became an impact in the neighborhood, and they were excellent in dealing with it. They just, they're closing down the operation in a staggered sort of way, but they've been in operation for quite some time, and they went to a limited amount of hours. It wasn't a battle, it wasn't a fight, it was just a discussion. And just like I've had plenty with John over the years.
Just so we can expand on
I'll
it.
get the information in the decibel.
We've had a couple of situations in the town. One was composting over there, one was gravel operation that the residents complained it was too much noise, and the building inspector came in and told them that they had to stop, right, basically.
And we had at the Board of Appeals, we had a complaint of the neighbors of Cataldo's, and they were doing a soil,
Screening.
grinding or whatever,
Screening.
screening, and it was not good, and it's been resolved. So
Yeah, I think it's a matter of proximity to everybody.
well, yeah, they were right
impactable.
next, like 30 feet away.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's all necessary to create topsoil that everybody buys and puts in their yard. It has to happen somewhere. We're currently doing it here, and we'd like to continue and expand it and hopefully support the business, justify the massive mortgage payment.
I think you've heard from
So,
most of the residents that
yeah.
they like to preserve the family farm. I think that it's a noble operation, but we want to make sure that you're not doing it at their expense.
Yes. She's going to continue farming because she's not allowed to work for me. So.
Okay, so why don't we continue this till August 15th again, my birthday again? Cake and ice cream day?
So, yeah, this was a discussion.
An
so-
informal discussion, right? Do you think you'd have more information?
Yeah, I can put like a memorandum just explaining the uses that we see, and then we can all go from there, and I'll add to this map and talk to Mayor and figure out how the best way is to distribute
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Yes, George, one last time. I'm running late here.
Mr. Chairman, I think that they need to notify all of the butters when
Not
they
for
get
informal
ready to
discussion.
do whatever they're going to do.
If they're gonna go to the special permit, I totally agree, but right now we're in informal discussion, so once they
Post
form.
it on a planning board agenda.
Once they post that, then we'll make sure they send certified letters to all the abutters. Thank you. All right, so we'll continue this till August 15th at whatever.
We don't need a time for this?
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
So since this isn't a scheduled hearing, just go to the planning board website, or the town website, planning board, and get an update on the next,
But it will be on the 15th.
yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we have, thank you. 7:45, I'm a little late. MRM Industries Adult Use Marijuana Facility, 160 Air Road. Thank you. Hi there. Actually, before you get started, I have a question for the board pertaining to this, okay? So right now, we have two marijuana facilities in this existing building. We didn't ask for a waiver for the second one because we didn't feel it was, our bylaw says you can't have two within 500 feet of one another, right? Is that,
We addressed the second one with an amended special permit, the distance.
okay. So are we gonna have to do that with this one? Because this is the third one in the same building, within 500 feet.
Very good
So
question.
the question is that how we're gonna approach this? Or are they're gonna have to request a waiver from the 500 feet? That we've already given the first time on the building.
Well, the way that we are starting to address it for 537 Great Road, that was the vertically integrated company. So the board decided that they didn't need to request the waiver for the 537.
You're talking Gianettis. Well, that
Right.
was the same owner, same.
Right.
But
This is different. This is
Are you sure? I didn't get that impression.
What?
I thought it was the same owner.
No, this is an entirely different operation.
Okay.
So we have two different things. We have.
Different operation than the dispensary or the testing.
Right, so we have the dispensary, we have the testing, this is
Yeah.
gonna be a manufacturing
Okay.
facility. And so we need to decide how to approach it, and if we wanna have three of them within 500 feet of one another.
Personally, I think that the waiver is going to be necessary, and the reason for that is because while G7 and Apothecary were very different businesses, right? Now I don't know how different it really is between, say, Apothecary and this one. And it, again, is another third entity that we don't know, isn't local, versus,
So why, other than it's marijuana related, why, because it's not it's not retail, is it? No, it's just a
It's
manufacturing.
manufacturing, it's gonna be,
Right. Our bylaw was written thinking about retail, saying no two could be within
Yeah.
X
So, I mean,
distance, but-
I don't disagree with you on the waiver, it may be a waiver, but I don't see that these businesses, they're in the same industry, but they're not
but that's what
the same businesses.
that's what we
Yeah.
decided when G7 came in after,
Okay.
after the first, after
The
the
apothecary,
retail.
yeah.
I'm assuming that that's how we're gonna approach it, but we do need to address it, and we do need to weigh in on it. So, okay.
Did the other business need a waiver, the second one?
We gave,
Yes.
yes, we gave them a waiver, so you're gonna need a waiver as well. Okay.
Thank you for doing my legal work for me, Mr. Chairman.
So, just to be, you're going to, I don't wanna,
need
I
to
don't wanna,
request one.
what?
They need to request.
Yes.
They're gonna, no, but they need to request one, but you're going to be manufacturing, wholesale manufacturer operation. Nobody can
Correct.
come there and buy it.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so that's different than the retail establishment, and it's different than G7. This is a third component to the marijuana. We're gonna be having a different aspect to it, okay? And the difference between this and Great Road is, he already has a license to distribute this, and he's gonna be doing the same thing, so that's why I don't think we needed a waiver for that one. This one's different.
Yes.
So anyway, so why don't we give us the Reader's Digest version of what you're proposing, and we'll go
Okay.
from there.
So Maren has the presentation up on the screen, but I do have some hard copies as well. If you'd like to see. The site plan isn't changing, that GPR is put together. And I also have a very thorough write-up of the business operation. 2 pages, so this is, I think, worth reading, so you get a very good understanding of the operation.
So just so that we're clear, it's only gonna be us four, Delisa Latiers, I
That's right.
cannot weigh in on this?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
I understand.
So that, you need 4 out of 4 votes for this.
Understand, okay.
Well, once, if they get to an application. We're at
This is
formal
just an
discussion right
informal
now.
meeting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is still informal? Oh, you guys are-
Yeah, don't jump the gun.
All right, okay. Wait a second, it doesn't say informal.
Well, it doesn't say
Preliminary.
public hearing either.
Okay. All right, give us,
Great. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim Valeriani with the Menting Group. Steve Krikorian is with MRM Industries. He's a part owner. Steve has been running a business analysis, business analytics is the name of the company, yeah, for how many years now? We've been in it?
Massachusetts-based, it's just 5 years.
Good. He's an ex-lieutenant, a retired lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army as well. So the other members have other business experience, and they'll be hiring a well-known consultant to assist them in getting the operation up and running for the manufacturing. So yes, we're seeking to go into 160 Great Road, A Road, Units 1 and 2. It's in the right district. That distancing, you know, the cannabis regs indicate 500 feet of distancing for retail from schools. And that really is, most communities apply it to retail. It's not very often that you see it enforced for the industries being separated, the businesses within cannabis. Perhaps with retail, it's done to improve competition. But I will say, it's the right location, it's the right type of building, and most of the buildings, properties in that industrial area are going concerns. Large industrial buildings, there's really a dearth of property available in that industrial area to allow this type of use. Very few properties on the market. So they're going to occupy units 1 and 2. It's going to be 6,400 square feet in total. They're going to pursue their operation in 2 phases. The first phase will be extraction of cannabis oils. And then once they get up and running and obtain some revenue from that operation, they'd go into phase 2, which would build out additionally in the rear for the manufacturing of edibles in a kitchen. They've already met with the police department. The chief has no concerns with the site plan. It's the same site plan we presented last year for Littleton Apothecary and G7 Labs. So there's the number of employees for Touchstone, which is the current occupant, the operation that Delisa owns, has about 4 employees on site. They'll have about 4 as well. At top operations in a few years, they might have 6. But would be seeking longer hours, just like G7, so they can, if they're busy, they can just keep going. You know, it's just going to be a few cars in the lot. And just this past Monday, we got the host community agreement from the Board of Selectmen. And we'll be doing a community outreach meeting sometime in about 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. And we'll have that done before we come here for our special permit. Your next meeting is August 15th, is that correct, Maren? Okay. So we'll probably try to get on that August 15th agenda.
Application deadline for the 15th would be next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, okay. Well, I've got some work cut out for me, but we'll do our best.
so, board have any questions or concerns?
So I have just a couple questions.
Okay.
So, you are currently, you currently have your provisional license?
No, we haven't applied to the Cannabis Commission yet, but that's not required to go in front of this board for a special permit. We do have our host community agreement.
So one of the things that we were pretty steadfast on with the previous applicant was that they needed to have their provisional license before they could receive anything from the planning board.
That's right. I think that was waived in the past. You're correct. It is in your bylaw, but I think that was...
I don't remember waiving that.
Well, G7
I
got
think we-
theirs, well, I think the hearings commenced with G7 and Littleton, and they both got their provisionals just prior. But we're a few months away from that.
Well, I think what Anna's trying to ask you or tell you is that she doesn't want to go through the process if you haven't started your provisional. I think that's what she's
Or if you haven't
asking.
even received your provisional license.
I see. Well, maybe we could.
In fact, I remember going through this with Littleton Apothecary, and Marin is saying yes, that we did not hear Littleton Apothecary until they got their provisional.
So, it was I don't think it was the provisional yet, it was kind of a notice that it was going to be
She,
I don't
she
know
had,
the wording
she
very
had
well.
some kind of,
signal from the state that the
yeah, I think she'd
application was
completed and they had
accepted and
accepted
completed.
her application or
Yes,
something.
so-
I think this might be a little different only in the fact that it's not a retail, that you're going to be held to less scrutiny and standards because you're not doing a retail, you're going to be doing a wholesale manufacturing.
Business to business. So perhaps, once we get our application complete and submitted to the Cannabis Commission, that could be the trigger for us to be heard.
You know, we're going to be making exceptions for everyone. I mean, one of the things that we want to do probably is go back and revisit the three decisions that were made as to whether or not we heard them, just so that we are consistent, right? I think one of the things that we took a look at was making sure that we were following the guidelines that we had set
Right.
in Littleton, going back all the way to when Ed and Cindy and I were part of the marijuana working group. And we said that folks needed to go through the process and have the provisional in place, because then there's a whole other waiting process for them to get their final operating license.
Well, if I may.
And so, hold on, and so from that perspective, it is a time-intensive process, right? Because we're gonna go through, we're gonna be spending board time to go through this, and then what happens if they don't get theirs approved? So that's part of the thinking.
I think I would feel more comfortable if you were at least in the process of getting the license.
I think that's fair. I will say that the Cannabis Commission does not require a provisional be issued before you can seek local permits. With the provisional license, it allows you to start construction. And then once it's fully constructed, you have to get a final inspection, certificate of occupancy, and the final inspection by the Cannabis Commission. So, applications are rarely rejected by the Cannabis Commission unless there's an issue with somebody's past, criminal history or something like that. And what we've seen other towns insist that a provisional be issued before permits can be heard. That is unnecessary. It slows down the industry. And the Cannabis Commission and the legislature are seeking ways with legislation that could pass by the end of this month to expedite the permitting for these companies. So if the town wrote that into their bylaw, I think that was early in the process when the Cannabis Commission had, started issuing licenses in 2018. And we would respectfully request that so long as we get our application considered complete by the Cannabis Commission. We have to submit an intent of application. They might issue a request for additional information. Sometimes that happens. And then they say, okay, your application is complete. Now, we're going to go and vote on a provisional license for you at the Cannabis Commission hearings that are held every month.
Cindy?
Certainly. So Cindy Napoli, I'm a member of the Select Board. So I was just reading through the bylaw that was approved by the voters of Littleton. You, as you stated, successfully negotiated a host community agreement with the Select Board that we signed on Monday. Then you can now use that agreement to then move forward with your application with the Cannabis Control Commission. I'm just wondering if you've conducted your community outreach meeting?
Not yet. That's going to be in about, we have to do that. We've got to give 20 days notice, I think, prior to that occurring.
Right. So as long as you've held your community outreach meeting, you are then permitted to move forward with your application to the Cannabis Control Commission and your application for a special permit before this board, which can be done in tandem with one another, according to the way our bylaw is written.
Okay. I'll take another look at that language in the bylaw as well.
Well, I think at the very least, we're not going to, we can hold informal discussions and everything, but we're not going to go through the formal process till at least you're on your way with the Cannabis Control Commission. I think it makes sense because we don't want to go through the peer review and everything else until we... you know?
I don't disagree with that approach, and so I'd like to suggest it's when our application is deemed complete, that usually takes 30 days after it's submitted. And that would be, I don't anticipate more than one hearing with this board with what we're proposing.
Okay.
And the biggest review we feel we need is with the building department and the fire department because of what we'll be doing there.
I don't disagree with you, I just think from the process standpoint, we have to have you in the process in order for us
Understand.
to actually, I think that makes the most sense.
Okay, that's fine.
We could continue you, well, I mean, like I said, this is an informal discussion.
Yeah, we're using GPR for the site plan, no changes to that. The floor plan is very basic. And again, I think the hearing will go well, and I think the waiver for the 500 feet of distancing is in order. And
I don't think you're gonna have I'm not speaking for everybody, I think we realize there are three distinct businesses. I don't think the 500 feet is really a concern. If you have all your other ducks in a row, I mean, we've already done G7 in the retail establishment. It's more about putting two retails together. You're not gonna be retail, you're gonna be
That's right.
wholesale manufacturing.
Good.
So I think we're okay with that. It's just, let us know when you have, your outreach and when you have, at least the application presented to them, and we'll put you in the agenda. I think if you want to be more proactive, if you don't think you're gonna make August, which I don't think you're gonna, get everything ready for September, get your waiver to us and everything else, and if you want to get your peer review stuff going, we could be obviously working on that before you even come before us.
sounds good.
To do it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And any questions?
Any questions or concerns? Anyone? Mr. Sanders?
George Sanders, 672 Great Road. Did I hear you say there's gonna be a kitchen?
Yes, it's a commercial kitchen, stainless steel, where edibles are created.
So you're gonna be manufacturing products there, cooking, whatever?
Yes, some sort of.
What about the smell?
We're gonna have carbon filters there.
We're gonna have carbon filtration, but with this type
Wait
of,
just a minute, not just carbon, are you gonna have a carbon charcoal filters there
Yes.
to do this?
yes, that's standard.
Well, carbon is standard, but carbon charcoal filters is a little bit different.
Okay.
So
We'll
just,
have a system designed.
Because it attaches the smell to the charcoal and it doesn't go out. So I want to make sure that even though you're in that industrial area over there, we want to make sure that there's no smell that's coming out from that operation over there. So I would suggest that if you don't have it on your list, that you have the carbon charcoal filters put in place for your filter. And the other thing is, you're going to put a negative air pressure on it?
Well, that's typically for cultivation. This is product manufacturing.
Well, you still got smell that's coming off where you're cooking there, so if you open the door, it goes out the door, it gets into the hall or whatever. I'm just saying, if you have a negative air pressure system, you solve that problem because it sucks from the floor up.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'll relay that to
I'm
the
just passing that
operators.
on.
Very good.
thank you. All right, so we'll wait to hear back from you. Like I
Very
said, we'll-
And while we're talking about schedule, so August 15th is the next board meeting. If you're returning to the first Thursday of the month, the following meeting would be September 1. We're asking if you want to meet September 1 and add a second meeting in September, because with this one, I would expect probably 5 new applications in the next month and a half.
Why do we have to do September 1st?
You don't have to.
Because it's the first Thursday of the
It's the
month.
first-
That's actually, isn't that even a holiday? Labor Day? No.
The first,
The 5th is Labor Day.
Okay. I
It
don't
would
think I
be before
would
Labor Day.
September
Why don't
1st.
we do it after Labor Day, like the 12th or
That'd be the 8th.
the 8th?
Oh, I'm thinking Monday.
Okay,
Okay.
do it that way.
certainly.
Gives you a
Okay.
little more time.
Fantastic. Thank you for that information.
Okay, why don't we do it then?
Board have any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks a bunch.
I might be on my honeymoon, wait a second.
No,
I don't know
yeah.
if I can make
You
it.
may still be recovering from the
Yeah,
big day.
Who knows? I don't know. No, trust me, I'll be home. Anyway. Going to Old Orchard Beach, so how big of a wedding is that? Anyway, okay, we have, where am I now? 8:15, we're transfer TDR, kind of a quick update on that, Bartlett, or?
Well, yeah, I hope you guys all got my,
I did, and
Memo?
thank you.
um,
It's like writing a term paper when you're, not in school anymore.
right. So, so it's a complicated issue. I mean, implementing it is complicated. Since I wrote this, I have been loaned this book, Rural by Design, from Don McIver. And there's a, chapter 18 in here is about TDRs, and there's a bunch of other things. So the result of reading this is that I'm beginning to think that revising the subdivision bylaw, I think is the way to say it, would be actually a better solution for this town than the TDRs. The town is very small. TDRs work better in large areas. Counties out west are the zoning authorities out west. There's some almost statewide systems that are set up. Just the size of the town limits the market. This book has got a lot of ideas about how you work with developers to do subdivisions, and he talks about a four-stage process. The developer comes in with the number of houses that he could build by right, on the basic thing, and then the boards, conservation board, planning board, whatever, walk the site and look at what parts of the site need to be preserved or would be best preserved, and then they negotiate a layout that saves those things and confines the development to a relatively small part, and then they figure out where the houses go, and then they figure out where the road is, and then they figure out where the property lines are, so that there's a great deal of control over the process. And you can, the typical thing that I remember is that you end up with about 3/4 of a particular parcel being conserved. So that is a model that we could look at in greater depth and think about, as well as the TDR.
What about if we wanted to revamp the open space bylaw and say, since I think I agree with you, we're too small to really do TDI. I think that was one of the issues with it. We didn't have a lot of land, we don't have a lot of where it's gonna go to, but if we did one of the advantages of open space, and the reason everybody does it now, and we haven't had really any conventional subdivisions for 15 years, was because open space, they still got the same amount of house lots. They still, the land was still, if it's $1 million and they need to get 5 houses on it, they still got their 5. They were all clustered over
Right.
here. Maybe if we wanted to do something to preserve more farmland that doesn't get into the open space part of it, is, as you say, amend our bylaw for a fee that goes with the open space to preserve, put a number, let's just say it's 10,000. Every open space lot that we create through an open space development, 10,000 of that money will go back to the town, so the town can put it in a fund to
buy more land.
Right.
Right.
That would be better than a TDR process.
Right, and that kind of plan is frequently run in parallel to a TDR.
Right.
So there's a lot of room to play around
But
here.
I think that would at least give us a revenue stream so that we could start looking at money to preserve it, because that's what it's all about, really.
Yeah.
TDR thing, there's gonna be development at some point, there's something. That might be the best way to get and they're saving on, the infrastructure and everything else, so why don't we get some of that infrastructure money and send it back to the town through, maybe we should think about that, maybe.
Right.
Once we have 5 minutes, we don't know what to do with in the fall.
So, I think, yes, you are right, it is complicated. And I always felt that, the problem was that there was likely not to be a match between sending and receiving in any time, any particular time. However, and maybe, the Lapoli project takes a little pressure off of this because we're going to be developing a lot of housing. Because we first started, when the train station, the original plan was still in swing, we were looking at TDR, and it was part of a whole thing, how can we get more housing in town and this and that, and that is not quite going to be as pressing. However, there are a lot of open parcels that might be, we have areas in town where we've decided we could have more density. And then we have that, we have areas in town where we'd like to see open. And so I still wonder if it wouldn't be, a tool. I mean, I just feel like the Littleton train station thing, if there's TDR, that could be part of the, we could have that development and some money for the thing. Now, it's interesting that you went to an alternative way of doing that. It's sort of like inclusionary zoning where we get money for affordable housing per unit. And now we would say we want money for open space.
Land preservation.
Land
yes.
preservation.
If we're gonna do an open space, we get some money to buy.
And it may be that the desirability of developing here and the rise in the price of land could maybe we could do that, and developers could still go for it.
Well, I think they'd still go for it. Let's just say Durkee. Let's take Durkee, for instance. If we had this for Durkee, what did we save what did we save, a half a mile of roadway in Durkee by going the open space? It was a huge number. You do that by $100,000, but we saved them $500,000. If we could have gotten some of that back for money to the town to buy other properties that don't get developed, then he's saving money because he doesn't have to do the infrastructure. We're getting money because we're letting him save on the infrastructure, and we're using the money however we see fit.
So then the thing would be, like Dave Guthrie, he would go along with that.
I think so, yeah.
There are other developers in town that would not. And then we say, well, then we don't need you to develop here.
No, I don't know. Well, if we paint it with the same brush, they all have to go.
I know, but I'm saying that the downside is that developers would turn away, but is that a problem?
I don't think they turn away. They go back to a conventional and they'd have to spend more money.
Okay, I see what
And then they would charge more for their houses.
Right.
So,
Well, they'll charge whatever they can get in.
I actually would like to chime in here because I think while this is another idea, I think we're still missing the forest for the trees, because if ultimately what we're saying is that any new subdivision were to be built, where we are running out of land that we all think would be appropriate for that, so that means that there would be a reduced pot of money, if you will, that would be garnered from such subdivisions, okay? And then, on the other hand, we still have farms and perhaps other large property owners who still want to preserve their property, but the only people that are beating down their door are developers who want to create monster homes on them. So I don't see how what you're saying would actually be a long-term sustainable solution to trying to keep the farms and the open space open. So that's what I'm hearing, is that in and of itself, the idea sounds good, but I actually would question how much money would go into that pot.
We don't know until we try, but
But then, we don't know until we try it, but we're already running into the situation, as Jeff said, we're going to have a large number of housing units over at King Street, and so how much more do we actually need or want?
You don't, but getting back to Bartlett's problem with TDR, the problem Bartlett's having is the same problem we had 4 years ago. Nobody wants to buy into it. The farmers don't want to do it because they don't think they're getting enough money. The developers don't want to do it because they're happy with the density they're getting. This isn't putting more family farms back on the market for them to buy. Nobody really wants to engage in TDR because we're too small and they can't get enough money for it. So that's what the problem we had.
And the goal of
4 years ago.
TDR was to free up open land and, well, I mean, it's worth thinking about other, ways of
Well,
doing
I
it.
totally agree, it's worth
Yeah.
thinking about, but I still don't see that where that idea will get to where we're actually able to say to a farmer, a large landowner, guess what? You're going to get enough compensation that you will be incented to not sell to a developer. So that's all I'm saying.
But we don't have anybody who wants to enter into the program. Nobody wants to do it.
That's not true.
Yeah,
There are
it's
a
not
couple of people that I know of, but
There are people that want to sell land to us that has no value, that all the builders have looked at it, and I don't want to go into details.
Well,
There's a parcel of land in Littleton that's been focused around on TDR, and the problem with that is they went and sold all the good land off to all the farmer who did it, sold all the land that he could for house lots, and what's left in the middle is wetlands of marginal use. That's a large piece, but it's not worth, nobody can build houses
nobody
out
can
there.
build on it, right?
So that's why he wants to do the TDR, because no one's knocking his door down trying to buy it.
You gotta have a buildable lot
You gotta have
to
a
start the
buildable lot,
buildable, the TDR process.
So I think in looking at what your working group has come up with, has the working group reviewed all of this and their agreement?
They've presumably seen it because it got sent to them, but we haven't had a meeting since then.
Okay.
Why don't we do this? We missed the vote.
Actually, part of the conversation where Bartlett started was the conservation subdivision design. I want to support that thought process as well, because I think we can probably put several of these ideas together. A lot of the times, by the time you get a preliminary subdivision, the developer has already decided what parts he wants to develop on and what parts he wants to save. That whole process doesn't allow the town to say what parts are most important to be preserved. And that's what the conservation subdivision design process gives us. So I would recommend we dig into that and learn a little bit about that, see if it makes sense. Just for that piece of it. The idea of, and then from there, if you get the cluster development that's able to provide some funds for open space, it's certainly an idea worth pursuing. I'd hate to give up on TDR 100%. I'm not there yet, but because I think there is some value to the town. Another tool in the toolbox we might be able to use somewhere.
My thing is that we missed a golden opportunity today.
Mhm.
We had the perfect person to talk about TDR in front of us tonight. And we should bring, when they come back next month, we should be talking to that person about TDR, the pros and cons, and how it could or couldn't work.
Well, and that's fine, but I don't agree that we should have asked today. That would have been.
Well, no, I think she's gonna come back next month.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk to her about whether TDR would help her out, and how would we go
Well,
about it.
and the farmers definitely have had a lot of input into the TDR
I'm trying
process.
to move it along, I'm trying.
No, I wanted to speak.
Go ahead,
So-
speak.
Yeah. But I'll let you
One quick
guys
question
finish.
for Maren before we get off of it. The term that you just used, the conservation,
Yeah, I want to hear that
Subdivision
term.
design.
Yeah.
I don't remember the order of that Randall puts those words in when he refers.
is
to
that
it.
what Sudbury did? Do you remember a couple of years ago, you and I were at a seminar where they talked about where the town actually went through and did something like what was just described?
Several communities have adopted this process, like off the top
There's
of
an
my head.
example in here from Westford.
Oh. Well, I have some experience on a project, it was on the West Coast, where the big parcel was, they called it a definitive plan, and they defined what was conservation, how big the lots were, also with the FAR of the resulting homes were, which I think is a problem with some of these.
We're not allowed under Massachusetts law, but.
Well, I don't understand that, because I work with FAR all the time,
Yeah.
every single day.
Yep, the zoning cannot limit.
Then why am I working in
residential-
towns where the zoning is governed by FAR?
Anyway.
Anyway, so, do you have a quick?
Very quick. So, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just with respect to the discussion tonight, I appreciate the work that the TDR working group has put into this. And thank you, Bartlett, for presenting what would be kind of an alternative plan. Being part of the TDR working group way back when we first started these discussions, I think, Mark, you might have been part of that group too. I never really thought that it was going to work in Littleton for the exact reason that you stated, is that it's just too small of a town. We don't have enough, sending and receiving areas. Our farming community is not interested in it. I know I've had discussions with them personally. I've gone to AgCom meetings. Their land is just too valuable, and I guess they're familiar with other farmers in other communities who have that have adopted TDR, and they've just realized that it wasn't a benefit to them at all. I love the idea of coming up with some sort of mechanism where we can start funding an open space trust or fund or something. We can put it into the CPC, we can get the matching grant, the matching funds from the state on that, and we can build it that way. To Anna's point, we're never gonna have enough money at the end of the day, but we need to have some money. And we can have other mechanisms if and when one of the farms that are along the 2A Greenbelt do go up for sale, because I think it's just a matter of time before one of them does. And that's going to be a very detrimental impact on our community aesthetically. And it's really going to affect what we're trying to do for Littleton. We don't want to be like Acton, we don't want to be like Westford. We do have a plan. We have an open space recreation plan. We have primary preservation areas that we've developed as a community. And I think we need to come up with some sort of funding mechanism and have some money available to help save those tracts of land. There's other things that we can do, depending on the town's financial situation, as far as bonding and coming up with other funding mechanisms to help preserve land, but we need to start somewhere. So I like the thought process that Bartlett presented tonight, and I think it's definitely warrants further discussion.
Why don't we put it on for next when Jamie's here as well, just so we can kind of.
Well, I mean, the problem is that as land, house lots sell for $250,000, and there's no way a TDR is going to be in that range. So, if we offer Jamie $10,000 or $20,000 an acre for TDRs, she's going to laugh at us.
No, but I think we were up to like 125, and they still laughed at us. That was, I think, when we stopped there, because it didn't make sense to talk anymore. But anyway, so what do?
I'd hate to muddle this discussion with the special permit that they'll be seeking.
Okay, so let's continue.
All right.
Okay. Thank you for.
All right, but I'll see if I can write up another term paper on this.
Bartlett, thank you for all your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's not an easy one.
Even getting your own libraries established about, what to look at.
Before we have the 8:30, you've been sitting here very quietly, which is, I know, a pain for you. Are you here for this 8:30, or do you have something else on the agenda that you wanted to talk about?
Had Cardillo's property on my mind for, I think we're going on 10 meetings now, and I'm trying to get to the finish line.
Can we just talk real quickly about that before we jump into? Can we indulge you, because you've been here quietly asking? So getting back to the Cardillo.
I think the last time I spoke to Myron, what happened was the decision has been filed with the town clerk. Cardillo's would like to start some work on the property. There is a drainage structure that is a replacement of an obsolete and tired drainage structure, and my understanding is the design is a much better one. It was sent out to Green for peer review. And every time it was peer-reviewed, it came back with a comment to update this or complete that or do stormwater drainage calculations. As of about a week ago, I think Myron told me that she thought John Field was supposed to send another stormwater drainage calculation as to what happens in the 100-year flood surrounding that drain. And John had said he wasn't going to do it. I think the misunderstanding when I spoke to John right afterwards was John said he wasn't going to do it because no stormwater leaves the site. And so he didn't feel it was necessary to provide stormwater calculations for water that doesn't leave the site. That same day, I believe, or the next day, correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, he then sent a message with basically that information to Green stating the stormwater doesn't leave the site. He did say to me on the phone tonight, in the 100-year flood, there will be puddling on the site around the structure because the way the site is and has been in the existing conditions, you can never prevent the 100-year problem, but it's only on site. It still won't leave the site. And so he sent that message off to Green. Unfortunately, what happened this week, I guess, is Tom is the guy at Green who's reviewing it, and I think you told me, Maureen, that he's on vacation this week. John did call him today and got that message that he's on vacation this week, and John sent him that stuff. I mean, Myron says if Green is satisfied with this last submittal, that there's no reason for the board to have to act because the decision, correct me again if I'm wrong, the decision is filed and it's a matter of Myron saying Green has been satisfied with everything submitted. What I'm worried about is that Green won't ever be, quote, totally satisfied because to protect themselves, they have to say there will be ponding on the site. It's not designed for the 100-year flood. So the thing that the board is required or requesting can't be met, essentially. What has to happen is maybe somebody needs to reassure maybe the board needs reassurance from Green that John's statement that the stormwater isn't going to leave the site, or it's certainly not going to leave the site, except in the extreme, 100-year flood condition, and then it will not leave the site with any, I don't know, the runoff be dangerous in the community or whatever. I don't know. I think we're in a catch-22, and it seems to be it's been going on for long enough that we have to do something.
So
Mr. Chair, I don't understand what we're talking about or why we're even having this discussion if it's not on the agenda.
Because you're absolutely right, it shouldn't be, and it was my discretion because you can sit there all night long. I asked her just briefly if she was here about Cooper or something else, and she went on and told me, Sherry went on and told me she was on something else, so I indulged her in that, and I guess now we're kind of stuck in it, so.
I also was told 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago that it was the administrator's decision to bring before the board tonight a complaint that John Field, the engineer, hadn't satisfied Green and what the board was going to do about it. So I came in case the board was going to discuss this matter, that I would be present.
Okay, that's certainly a different tack than I would have taken on describing the situation.
Sounds like this needs to be on the agenda for some future meeting.
Yeah.
Can we put it on for September 1st?
No, I don't think there's a need to at this point. Green has, so we did get additional information from the design engineer last week. Green has that. They will be able to get to me, I asked for it by next Wednesday, their response to it. And actually, this was the first been information from the design engineer in that specifically addressed several of the comments on the peer review.
So hopefully you guys can work this all out.
That's my hope, because otherwise this would be the very first peer review process that we couldn't bring to a successful conclusion.
Why don't we work to get that done so we don't have to have another meeting on anything else? Okay, is that good?
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on. We have a 7:30 to discuss the Cooper Farm Estates.
8:30, we're not that late.
What?
It's at 8:30, we're not that.
8:30, whatever, yeah, 8:30, yeah. This was all brought out by the fact that the fields filed for the applicant, the developer down there filed for another house lot for the over 55. So just to go backwards first.
You mean filed, you mean for a CO or? for-
No, and a permit for
Okay.
it. Okay, but let's first of all go back.
Mr. Chair, I'm
What?
sorry. Question, do we have anybody here from Cooper Farm?
I don't
to-
believe we do, because I think Jennifer Platt decided that she was not gonna come tonight. The developers were not gonna come. She knows, she was made aware.
So are we just having this discussion
We're gonna
among
have this
ourselves?
we're having this discussion with us and the select board, because this is really a select board issue. So going backwards,
Okay,
they were made available, they decided not to show. We're discussing it anyway, and we're having a discussion with the select board to decide what to do next. Cooper Farms originally was a host community agreement. The town had first right of refusal, 61A, to buy Cooper Farms. They wrote a host community agreement, the select board did, to get conditions, approvals for Cooper Farms, for the town, being the open space, the potential for a ball field, reduced number of units, everything else, host community agreement, they enter into it, they sign it, it's them in the fields. The host community agreement never came back to the planning board. It was the purview of the select board. We go through and do the open space, and then at a later date, we did the over 55. The issue now with the host community agreement is that there was some language in there specifically about the house that's triggered the concern by the planning board about number of affordable units. The agreement for the over 55, our bylaw back then stated that 25% of the units had to be affordable. Okay, that's in our bylaw. So right now, there's 15 units out there. So if you do the Littleton High School math, that's 3.5 units, and they only have 3 units of affordable. So Myron sent a letter to the building department stating that the next unit that's the application for has to be an affordable unit. And that's when the chain of events came out that, no, it doesn't have to. We already did the affordable, we're not gonna do that. So we got a copy of the host community agreement for the first time. In it, and we can go over all the details of it, but we have the people, people that were involved in it from the select board standpoint. The house was supposed to be turned over as part of the Cooper estate to the town of Littleton. Vince Cooper, his estate wanted it preserved and given to the town of Littleton, either to the town for their use, to the Affordable Housing Trust, or Habitat for Humanity. That never happened. Okay, in 2019, after the select board for 4 or 5 years, Cindy tried to get the house from the fields and was unsuccessful. We had a joint meeting in 2019, and we talked about the disposition of the house. The fields made an offer to renovate the house, to fix the house up, and to offer it as an affordable unit once it was renovated and fixed. And we, as the planning board, agreed that we would count that as an affordable unit if in fact they did that. Well, they didn't do that, okay? So now we fast forward to 2021, I believe. And finally, we have an understanding to get rid of the house. The fields have decided they want the house back. So they were supposed to donate it to the town. They decided they're gonna offer the town $350,000. The town accepts the money, and they get the house back. No affordable component. The amendment to the host community agreement says nothing about affordability in it. So the town sells it to the fields for $350,000. Now the fields are trying to say that because they gave us the $350,000, that was for affordability, and that we should be counting that unit as an affordable unit. I don't feel that it's an affordable unit. It's not in a family, it's not in the Affordable Housing Trust.
It's not deed restricted.
It's not deed restricted. There's not an affordable unit in there. There's a member of the Fields family that actually owns it. So how is that affordable? So that's where we're at right now. So
We have a cease and desist right now on the building permit for that
The permit's been put on hold.
16th permit.
This would be the 16th permit in the new Dean Lane subdivision for 5,500.
So right now, they're in violation of their special permit because regardless of that unit, they need 4 units affordable right now because they're over 15. It's 3.5 units, round up, they need 4 units there. They're in violation, and I feel they're in violation of the special permit as it is right now. They need to address that issue, and then we need to address the issue of moving forward, the affordability of the next unit, whether we want to allow it to be built or how we want to dispose of that. So my suggestion is to send it back, since it was your host of community agreement, to send it back to the select board, and we have a joint meeting with the select board to decide what we want to do about this host community agreement, because I'm not done yet. There are other issues with the host community agreement that are a problem. Which, like I said, the planning board, you signed it, nobody ever did anything about it afterwards. We were never purview to it, so we were never allowed to understand what was going on in it. The developer never made us aware of conditions. There's a condition in there. One of the conditions is that only 23 houses in the open space should be built. Guess what? There's 24 houses out there, so they're one over that. What's the repercussions? The agreement from the Coopers to the Fields say that only 12 houses should be done in the over 55 affordability, and 3 of them should be affordable. There's 15 out there now. The ball field was, the sewage treatment plant part was supposed to be designed so that there would be enough room left over for a ball field. Well, now that you have all this added housing out there, the sewage treatment plant is larger than it had to be, and it impinges, we can't put a ball field in it. So there's a lot of issues with the host community agreement, at least I feel. I want to see how the rest of the board feels, that we should send it back to you. We should have a joint meeting with with the select board about what to do about this host community agreement as it sits right now.
So just to clarify, Mr. Chair, so they're asking that the farmhouse count as an affordable unit for the over 55?
Correct.
Component?
If I may clarify, Mr. Chair, I believe what they're trying to state is that they made a payment in lieu of an affordable unit, so that $350,000 to keep the farmhouse went to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Right.
That's, I believe that's what they were saying.
That's what they think. So, first of all,
and just to clarify a little more, as far as making the house, they did put some money into the house. They did do a renovation. I met on site with former Select Board Member Knox and Select Board Member Coast and did a site walk as a building official. Mm-hmm. And then went inside the house and did my inspection and deemed that the house was entitled to a certificate of occupancy for the renovation work that was done. The stairs were in compliance, they met all the building code requirements for an occupancy permit. Mm-hmm. I made that determination, and then beyond that, negotiations started that I was not part of. So I just want to let you know that they did hold up that part as well.
Right.
But your host community, your amendment to the host community.
So the amendment to so if I may speak to that. So based on, Mr. Mullen's recollection is correct. So at the time, the house had been occupied by some people that were living there. It needed a lot of work. The select board went in and we identified the areas that needed to be updated and corrected, as Mr. Mullen stated. The agreement was that if the Fields did that work to the house, which they did, then it would be marketed as an affordable housing unit. And then if that had taken place, then it would count towards the affordable housing.
Right. That was in 19.
It wasn't marketed to our knowledge. Mm-hmm. They ended up selling it or giving it to a member of their family who's now currently living there. It's my understanding that they were saying that the farmhouse wouldn't have counted anyways towards the over 55, just because of the condition that it was in at the time. And so we entered into an amendment to the host community agreement. They did pay $350,000, which was then put into the Affordable Housing Trust bucket and circulated through the CPC. A condition of that amended host community agreement does say that upon receipt of the payment noted that section 2A of the HCA shall be deleted in its entirety and no further force or effect. And that paragraph 2A of the HCA pertains to the house.
Right.
So, and as far as the house community agreement in itself, the original agreement that we had with respect to a parcel going for recreation use or parcel going for open space use, the recreation parcel, as you stated, Mr. Chair, is not going to be suitable, I don't think, for any recreational purposes, just because the septic does encroach on it. And originally, I think the thought was it could be a lacrosse field or a soccer field, and it's just too small. And that's something that I think, I don't know what the select board wants to do about that, as far as, you know, enforcing that or what to do. At this point, it is what it is.
Well, I think we need to sit down as a town and decide, but, let's try to wrap.
So back to the house thing, the house issue, the farmhouse does not, as far as I'm concerned, personally, does not count as one of the affordable housing units.
Right. If they had done something in 19, and then we marketed it, and we got an affordable family net.
Right.
Fine. They didn't do that.
No.
Right, so there's no so we can all agree that there's no affordable unit associated. The fourth affordable unit is not the farmhouse, and they didn't pay for an affordable unit.
Right.
They paid to not donate it to the town of Littleton, not an affordable component. So that's
my understanding.
So we need to send them a letter back that there is no affordability component from the $350,000 to the amended HCA, and now they're in violation of their special permit because they need four.
Right. Right, and so if we do want to maybe schedule a joint meeting with the select board and have this discussion as you suggested,
Right.
and then maybe come out with an agreement that we will have that letter crafted by council and sent back to them. Maybe
Well,
we should do it that way.
I think the planning board needs to send it to them that they're in violation of their special permit right now.
Okay,
And then we still need to.
we still need to address,
We
yeah.
still need to meet with you jointly.
Right.
Spoke with Chris today about it,
Okay,
as far as that goes, and that's what he's suggesting that we
okay,
do.
perfect.
And that we decide what we want to do about the discrepancies in the HCA, if anything.
Right.
But as we sit right now, they're in violation of their special permit, and at the very least, we can not allow them to do anything till they come up with a solution to become in compliant, and that means we need a fourth unit somehow.
Okay.
The question's gonna be whether we wanna let them build another unit to do it, and they don't wanna build another unit that's not affordable, so now we're in another catch-22.
Right.
So, but at the very least, we need to send them a letter, they're in violation, and then schedule a meeting with your board and town council to decide what we wanna do with what's left of the host community agreement and the outstanding issues that are there.
Okay.
So we can do that, unless
Can you talk a little more about the original HCA and the numbers? Because I'm counting there's a lot more housing on there than what you described.
the original HCA said not to exceed, well, it's right here, do you have a copy of it?
I don't. Well, there's 25 new homes.
And there's supposed to be 22.
In addition to the existing one.
Okay,
and
so
then
right
there's-
here, this is the original host community agreement, right there, it says not to exceed 23 dwellings. It's in the host community agreement that they agreed with the.
And that doesn't even, well, there's 25 dwellings plus the over 55, which was under a separate agreement.
A separate
Is that-
agreement.
A separate piece of property.
And then what was the number in that agreement?
Well,
At the time, it was 16.
Well, there's a lot more shown.
At the time, it was 12.
12.
Because it was a smaller parcel.
It was a smaller, it was part of the Cooper agreement, which they never came to modify. Cooper agreement was 12. And that's what the subdivision was supposed to look like, it looks
So you're saying they're in
So,
violation because they overbuilt.
Right.
well, but presumably the planning board approved 25? Oh, but you say you didn't know about the
We didn't know any of
HCA.
this, because this was an agreement between the select board and them.
I can't even begin to think about how that gets
Right.
adjudicated.
That's why we need to have a joint meeting with the select board.
So if I may, Mr.
Go
Chair,
ahead.
just some history. I was on the planning board at the time. Westchester Development was doing Wellington Drive proposal for another open space subdivision. They have 5 house lots. They also owned a parcel of land on the other side of the wetlands that abutted the Cooper Farm Dean Lane subdivision. A land swap or land purchase occurred between those two entities increasing the lot size for M&M development and the Cooper Farm, Dean Lane Estates. So that's how it grew, because there was more land was added.
So that was apportioned to both the regular market rate, market housing and the over 55, because both elements were overbuilt.
Well, I think when the land increases, the overbuilt went away. They were built to capacity.
Okay.
We have an agreement to disagree about this one, but that's.
Well, my recollection is when I was sitting on the board, that's what, we approved the number of lots that are there as a planning board. We did 20 lot on Dean Lane, and I think we did 24, 25 on Cooper.
Even though the agreement says less, we didn't know that.
We weren't privy to the host community agreement.
Right. So that's why we need to send it back. But at the very least, they're in violation of their senior resident, their special permit for their over 55. They're in because they don't have 25% affordability right now, as it sits right now. Because we've all agreed that house, the $350,000 and the house is not an affordable component. So we're going to send them a letter. Plnbrd's going to send them a letter that they're in violation of and they have to do something. You're going to continue to hold that permit up until we all meet and decide what we want to do moving forward.
I serve at the pleasure of the board.
So the over 55 component has how many houses planned?
There are.
Depends on what plan you're looking at.
Exactly. They ran into some capacity issues on their shared septic because of the way it was designed. They're anticipating 16 units at Dean Lane. There are 15 there now.
So this last unit, there's just, this last unit is what is subject to all this kerfuffle. Okay. And the other thing is, I'm just wondering if the planning board could do it over again, would you delineate a playing field so that it couldn't be encroached upon, or how would you do it differently? Rather than taking representations of the developer?
It's a good point. I think it probably should have been spelled out and laid out, yeah.
I wasn't on the select board at the time that whole agreement, the hosting agreement was put together, but certainly the property should have been staked. So that there wasn't a possibility.
It's open, that's good, that's good.
Yeah, exactly, at least there is an open space.
But since we need playing fields, it's.
Right.
But the real issue is that was a carrot for the town to decide not to buy the property. We had first right of refusal. We could have bought it and just built bog fields out there. A negotiated settlement with the potential buyer, which were the fields, was we're going to get open space, we'll be able to build a ball field out there. You're going to have a reduced number of units out there as per the Coopers and as per the agreement. And, obviously it's partially our fault for not following up on it, but we were never made aware of the differences in what the host community agreement and the development was. So we have to address that issue, go once and for all moving forward, because we only have one lot left that we have any say in if we get past that. So we'll schedule a meeting with you guys, and Maureen's going to reach back to Chris tomorrow about drafting a letter to them that they're in violation of the special permit. Chris is around tomorrow, and then he's on vacation for 2 weeks. So can we get that somehow, or close?
Sure.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I would like to ask Ms. Napoli, through the chair, so are you saying that the Fields M&M Realty has already given the town $350,000 and the town has accepted that money?
Yes.
Okay, and so they officially have the deed to the house, they own that house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fields do, yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood that.
Well, actually, it's sitting in limbo right now. We've never done anything with the money. The money is actually in the general fund right now.
Oh, it is still in
It
the
hasn't
general
gone to
fund?
CPC yet to be sent over to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Right, the timing for that would be due at the fall town meeting.
Okay, so we'll work through you to get back and have a joint meeting with your board and town council to go over what, if anything, we want to do about that lot and about the host community agreement.
Right, okay.
Do you have any questions for us while we're both here about it, or anything in general, or?
I'm just trying to read over the October, I think it's October 2nd, 2019 minutes. Talks about the over 55 number of units.
Right.
I was just like trying to look at that.
So I read it, and I was just,
Yeah.
if they
So
had
I
done,
think the joint meeting's the best way to go. We need to just put this to rest once and for all.
and I agree, if they had done what they had proposed at that meeting, we wouldn't be having this discussion. We would have had an affordable unit. It would have been marketed to an affordable family, not to the Fields, and
Right.
we wouldn't have, they didn't do that.
Right.
You got, how many meetings did you come before us where you tried to get the Fields to do something with the house? Had to be 3 or 4.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Right,
going
and we
on.
got nowhere, and then
Right.
finally, the thing was, we'll give you 350,000, we'll keep it, because the host community agreement says they're supposed to give it to the town. So rather than give it to the town, they gave us 350 instead. Okay, all right. I don't want to beat you that house, so we're good. Great, thank you all for coming.
Great, thanks.
We're gonna go into executive session, we're gonna close the meeting, go into executive session, and then close our meeting. If the board will indulge me in that.
I move that we close.
So what do I have to say, Maya? I have to say something, right?
Move that the board enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing pending litigation, which is M&M Realty Trust v. Littleton Planning Board Land Court Case number 22.
Cindy, you can stay if you want.
MISC 0287, where doing so in open session would have a detrimental impact on the board's litigation position, and to not reconvene in open session at the conclusion of the executive session. And the chair declares that you did not reasonably anticipate this matter 48 hours before the meeting because the settlement offer was received from opposing counsel today.
So.
And not returning to open session?
No, we're shutting it. You want us to shut it off?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we have, wait till he shuts it off.